They're longtime friends.
Let me tell you something real quick about Dibs that I'm sure not everybody knows.
And first-time partners.
Hang in there, big guy. There'll be brighter days ahead.
Now these two homegrown Bay Area boys finally come together to take over sports talk.
Get the hell off of my doorstep.
Major League Baseball, you stink.
It's Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Sean Salisbury is in for Dibs, and I think that's all I'm contractually obligated to say today. That's it. Here we go. Just wind you up and let you roll. That's what I'm told, right?
I want to hear from you. You live there, brother. I'm just glad to be along. Thanks for inviting me in.
No, I'm so excited you're here. And Mike Salk in Seattle is going to join us in an hour. The unmatched Amy Trask is going to join us at 11 this morning. And, of course, we've always got time for you at 888-957-9570. That's also our Comcast business text line. And good morning to those of you on Twitch and YouTube. Yes, you can see Sean Salisbury's baby blue bee on his hat. It's Red Sox. Don't get it twisted. But you can check that out by joining us on YouTube right now. So I guess this is my question, Sean, and I want to throw it to you and everybody listening. Did the 49ers just flat out bite off more than they can chew? I guess that's my umbrella question now. Because if you want to tell me, okay, we are a big enough team and a mature enough locker room to handle a presence like Jimmy Garoppolo on the sideline while Trey Lance grows up, okay, I can buy it. If you want to say, yes, with this Super Bowl roster, we feel we can coach Trey up enough to compete even in his first year as a starter. Okay, I guess I can buy it. But how many of these things do I have to buy before I just ask the question, did you create 49ers a lane for yourselves that is so fine that to be able to walk it and not fall off and have everybody jump on your back, man, it seems this close to impossible, Sean.
Mark, it's there's so many branches to this conversation, and you are 100% correct. Yes, they did. Of course they did. Rarely, and when we say, well, look what Kansas City did. Well, even they, with Alex Smith, right, ran through 15 games and they played. Even they were a little patient. Now, well, then Mahomes took over in year 2. I get it. But there's a difference here. They're just, well, why is there? Trey was drafted higher. Because you're drafted higher doesn't make you a better player. I look at like Davis Mills here in Houston and Trevor Lawrence. I want you to flip-flop Davis Mills and Trey Lance.
Okay.
Davis Mills and Trey Lance. What do you think the narrative is on Davis Mills, the way he played the last 6 games last year? You know what they're saying? Oh, man, okay, it's time to make a move. Why? Because he's seen a little bit bigger body of work, and the reason why we don't put the same expectations on him, which we should, is he's a starting quarterback, is he was drafted in the 3rd round, not the 1st. Even Lawrence switching with Davis Mills in the same division. So we have these expectations we put on first-round guys that are enormously, they're outrageous because we've had, it seems like a boatload of success, Mark. Herbert, you mentioned. Allen, if you recall, his first 2 years, he was still scrambling around trying to settle in. That's exactly right. So they don't all just happen to happen like Mahomes does, and we've got to stop it. But, yeah, they bit off more than they could chew. Here's why. The best thing that you think of is, well, if you had a backup that is throwing 17 touchdowns and 14 picks and you got to move on from him, we're not very good. We're putting the guy in and we're going to ride with it. This team, all right, when you look at rosters, as we've discussed, as we talked on the handing it over from the guys before us to us, is this roster they've got a stud at about 6 or so positions that are in the top 5 at their position in the league. So you say, what do we need to drive the position to get us to the Super Bowl? It's that position. But the temptation of, and you hit it, Mark, when we were doing the crosstalk, is that with Jimmy Garoppolo, that there was things they felt they hit the ceiling on him as a starter. They just did. Whether they want to admit it or not, they did. And whether you and I think that's the case. With Trey Lance, they feel there's a window to bust through or there's a hole to bust through that ceiling because of his enormous ability. But we've seen him start 3 games, one of them in horrible weather, the other 2 in circumstances where he wasn't the guy. Yes, they bit off more than they could chew to date. We're going to find out. But then you ask, and I'm curious, what's the leash? What's the leash with the Super Bowl team? Is it 4 games? Is it 6 games? Where's your responsibility? Is it to the team? Is it to Trey Lance? Do you want to admit that you made a mistake in year 2 starting him if you're 2-4? All these things that there's a ton of ifs, and I know it's 1 game in, but you're taking a big-time flyer that you hope. I don't like to hope. I usually like to know. I think Buffalo knew. I think Kansas City knew. I still think there's a little bit of hope here. I don't think they're all set 100%. This is the best quarterback by far in our system. I'm not saying I don't. I'm not saying you don't. You don't make this decision if Trey Lance is a 3rd-round pick, yet you still think he's got the ability. Trey Lance is not the starter in San Francisco this year.
Right. Even late first round. Look at what the Packers have done. Even late.
Kenny Pickett.
It's just different if you've got one of those first 10 numbers next to your name when you come out in the draft. Josh Allen did. Patrick Mahomes did. Justin Herbert did. Trey Lance does. We get it from a year ago. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. I know Justin Fields just on the outside looking in there. But it's different, and I mean the one that goes to my mind, especially in you as a Trojan, the one that will always go to my mind when this conversation comes up is Reggie Bush. It will always be for me Reggie Bush. Part of it is because I was working there during and with that broadcast during that time, and I watched every play of his career. And if you look at Reggie Bush's NFL career, I know it spanned 4 different NFL teams. If you look at his NFL career, by almost any metric, it's like, bravo, dude. That was a hell of an NFL career. But no, it wasn't, because we, at number 2 overall, we were told you were Gale Sayers. And you weren't Gale Sayers. And so this is always going to be a part of football players. It's going to be based on where you're drafted. But again, with this particular team, because so many of the guys drafted top 5 are going to teams that have no pressure, they're rebuilding. If they miss, okay, we'll try again in 4 or 5 years. There's so much on the line here, and there's no time. So, you compare this to anything. When you're late somewhere and you hit a traffic jam, you're hosed. I don't know what the answer is for the 49ers if this doesn't hit within the next 3 or 4 weeks.
You're 100% correct, and it's unrealistic. But Mark, you're right. Now let me. A good comp is, even though he was drafted a bit later in the first round. Remember when Ben Roethlisberger went to Pittsburgh?
Yep.
We didn't have pressure on him. Ben had a great roster. They said, okay, he can throw it. They moved him in. They weren't going to go away from all, and he just efficiently worked his way through it. And maybe you'll get that with Trey Lance. Now, I know that Trey was drafted higher. I'm just talking about, you hit it. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. They go to bad teams because that's why they're picking high, and that's why you get the good player. And every now and then you'll get Joe Montana in the 3rd round and say, okay, he's the best quarterback until Brady waltzes around. So let me ask you, I want to ask, because I'm on every week, through the season.
Yep.
But it's still distant here, and I haven't missed a Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo throw, just like you were talking about a Reggie Bush play. So why did, just the buzz around the city, I know when we come on shows, why, number 1, do you think the 49ers made the decision? But number 2 is, why did they want the decision? Mark, any other time, okay, give me somebody other than Jimmy that's a good player but not Brady or a top, Dak Prescott.
Okay.
Dak Prescott.
Go Dak.
If Dak Prescott has 2 NFC championship games, and he's on the 49ers roster,
yep,
and took him to a Super Bowl and missed some throws late, he was a 4th rounder. Do you think Dak Prescott is still the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right, so here we are. So why the hurry so quickly to get Jimmy out?
Okay, my mind goes to 2 different places at the same time. When you ask me why, the very first word that popped into my head was finances. Okay? Finances. Now, that's only a piece of the puzzle, but it's a team. We keep talking about a Super Bowl roster, and this team knows, as you know, teams are working 3-4 years ahead. What do they know? They know that Nick Bosa needs an extension. They know that Debo's about to scrub the internet. They know that George Kittle just got an extension. Fred Warner, an extension, right? They know these things are coming, and so in order to do all of those things comfortably, where's a spot where we could save money? Their thought is, even if Trey is just Jimmy, well, we could do all of this for a fraction of the price and keep all of these wonderful players around him. So to them, it's like we can have Trey and all of those other 4 players, or we could have Jimmy and we might lose one of those players. So that's answer number 1. But answer number 2 is obviously, I do think that like Kyle Shanahan being as hard as he is on offensive players, I think saw enough times where he ended up in a big game, whether it's prime time or at the end of the year, where he felt like he was behind at that position versus the team that he was playing athletically.
Yep, Mark, and you're right, because the thing with Jimmy is I wasn't really worried about Jimmy making the spectacular plays that only super freaks in this league make, right? I was, like in the Super Bowl, Jimmy, it's happened, Jimmy's biggest downfall, okay, he may not have the strongest arm, maybe not a great deep ball throw, but he has, like I said, 2 NFC championship games. The guy wins, no matter how we slice it. And when people say, well, he's on a good team, well, isn't that the object? Okay, then I guess we can't give Terry Bradshaw credit or Joe Montana. They were on good teams, okay? Or Troy Aikman, well, you're supposed to enhance him, and Jimmy did his job. Jimmy missed too many easy throws in big moments, Mark. That's why. And even if he makes 80% or 90% of the plays throughout his career, when you go back and evaluate, when you're a coach and you're studying it, you go back and say, okay, here's 10 or 15 plays. Would the other guy have made them? And if you say yes, that's why you make the decision. Now, let's make no mistake about it. And, I've known John Lynch forever. I love those guys.
Yep.
But when you give up those assets to move that far up, you don't have to, you can't wait 4 years. You can, but the world's not going to let you, and neither is the finances, like you said. Like what's going on with Jordan Love in Green Bay.
Yes.
He got no shot to see the field. It's going to be the most wasted, unless they trade him and get an asset. He's going to spend 8 years sitting on the bench in his second contract without starting 3 games because Aaron's there. So, with that, do you think, and you make 2 great points on that, do you think the 49ers players, team, city, organization, while it's 1 game, I'm not putting anybody in the Hall of Fame or Baron. I'm just saying the overall thought going into this. Forget last week. Do you think they went in thinking that their best chance to win and be consistent each week, not spectacular, consistent, was Jimmy or Trey?
This year?
Yep.
The players or the coaches?
That building.
I think
that building.
I think right now that answer they think is Jimmy. I think that's what they think. And I think that's why they kept him. I think that's why they kept him. Look, Sean, I said this 2 weeks ago when it came down. We love sports documentaries, HBO, Hard Knocks. We got all this great stuff out there now, 30 for 30. If there is any documentary that you could give me 5 years from now, I don't think we're ever going to get it, but I would love The Summer of Jimmy. That's my title. The summer, I want to know. The documentary starts as soon as the shoulder injury happens in Dallas. That shoulder injury, that's the first scene of the movie. Then take me from that to the re-signing in San Francisco, and then the rest of the script is still being written because I want to know if he's going to end up playing football this year or not. Because the reason I want that doc, Sean, is I think all of us, we're all running around in this world with opinions, and I think we know 10% of the story. What must have happened this summer with his shoulder, with conversations with other teams, with his agent. I can envision a shouting match with Parag Marathe at some point. Something. Trey, what they see in practice, arm fatigue. Oh my gosh, he might not be what we think he is. Actually, yes, he is. That whole thing, I mean, I think we only know and we're guessing on the tip of the iceberg.
Mark, can you imagine being an organization? I mean, obviously it's a good problem to have with this kind of roster, and you say, well, we just went to the NFC Championship game, and they're an interception, possibly a dropped interception away from playing in the Super Bowl again.
Yep.
They are.
Yep.
And we know they had a couple throws and misses. But with that in mind can you imagine going into this season and thinking, okay, we just got there, we're just going to move on. We got a guy who wins, and you look at his nobody ever benches or replaces a guy who's won as much as Jimmy, who's not 48 or 38 years old, right? You just don't.
Yep.
You don't, unless of course you think, 1, you can't afford him. 2, we gave up too many assets. Or 3, the guy behind him is just better. Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes. Okay, I get it. But what would have been the problem with making Trey beat him out, and if not, starting Jimmy Garoppolo, wouldn't it be easier to go have Jimmy and have to bench him if it's not going well than Trey Lance as a young guy and having to bench him and go back to Jimmy? Don't you take more flack? I mean, I know it's both, but what was the rush? Why the rush to force a guy in who's only played, and with the COVID stuff the last couple years, still, I think Trey Lance has got an enormous amount of ability. I do. I think Jimmy's enormously consistent winner and an inconsistent on simple throws to get you to a level you say, oh my gosh, Jimmy's never going to be the reason you win a Super Bowl. But you get my point?
Yep.
Where I can look at Josh Allen and say, if they go there, of course it's 11 guys on both sides. But it's never going to be, they're not going to the Super Bowl and winning in Buffalo in spite of Josh Allen. They're just not. So those guys that, look what Brady does, goes to Tampa, boom, instantly in the Super Bowl. Jimmy will never be the reason, but he's never going to be the reason that you're not going to get there in spite of him because he's a solid player.
Yep.
Not spectacular, solid enough to take and Jimmy's always got to be on a great roster. Jimmy ain't taking the Houston Texans to the playoffs this year. Jimmy wasn't taking the Bears to the playoffs. Jimmy can take the 49ers back because he fits with what they do. I'm not saying Trey Lance can't bust through the ceiling. I think he's got a world of potential. The production over the potential. Why were we in such a rush? You said money, but as far as on the field, what would have been the problem waiting? Making him beat him out or let Jimmy play his way out of the job? Or do you think Jimmy played his way out of the job?
I don't think. I mean, my gosh, the last time we saw him, he had one arm and he was in the NFC Championship. And yes, he missed some throws. But you also made the point. Who knows what our conversation is about Jimmy if Jaquiski Tartt holds onto a ball and things go a certain way from there. I'm not blaming Tartt. Who knows where it goes from there? The answer to your question, though, is our world. Our world does not have the patience for the third overall draft pick to not be playing by year 2. It's a rare circumstance that we even let him get through year 1. Mahomes and Lance, that's the end of the story. I guess, and Aaron Rodgers, but that was many years ago. How many big time, and Rodgers was 24th overall. How many top 10 quarterbacks, and you can give me Tyrod Taylor with a shot to the heart and all of the weird stuff that happens that leads to a guy being in. How many top 10 guys after the first year are not the starter? I can't think of any. None.
Right.
So we would lose it, and I know the answer is, well, a team, you can't listen to the fans and the media, but we're losing it now. What would we be? We would be calling him a bust, and he would have not even been on the field yet.
Right, and the thing about it is when you said nobody in the top 10 the second year that guy's playing, and it goes back to your original point on this segment is this roster NFC Championship game is, those teams because they're on bad teams. This team, you're like, listen, if we take the Super Bowl and last year's NFC Championship game, Mark, the Super Bowl they were in, and say how many plays cost you those games offensively, what I guarantee you won't get to 10 of them. I guarantee it. If Jimmy's 6 of 11 in the Super Bowl, they win. If Jimmy, you know my point? So it's not like a cumulative, like, oh my gosh, the guy sucked. And it's not like Trey Lance is going to make plenty of plays.
Sure.
The question is he a Super Bowl guy? But when you make you're a Super Bowl team, get the NFC Championship game, you're in the prime of your career, and you still get sat down, and they're going with a guy that they think and hope is going to be better, and we all do, but I've never seen anything like it, and you can count less than a dozen plays, I guarantee it, is the reason Super Bowl and last year's NFC Championship game that the 49ers didn't win the first one and weren't playing in the second one.
Sean Salisbury is in for Dibs. Get on over to YouTube and Twitch. You can watch the show. Keep on listening where you are. You can call in. Comcast Business text line as well. Those numbers are 888-957-9570. We're going to go to the phone shortly. Also this. Sean, I'm this close. I am this close to changing my mind about something. And this is what it is. When Trey Lance got drafted last year, I thought to myself, okay, we got 5 quarterbacks that everybody's talking about. Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, and then Fields and Mac Jones. And I thought to myself, whichever one ends up in San Francisco, holy smokes, they sold under a lucky star because these other guys are going to have to go hack their way through and hope that the organization puts something around them, gets a good coach, finds an avenue, because it's not just the quarterback. A quarterback does need good things around him. Look at Kurt Warner's career. Good with the Rams, good with the Cardinals, stunk out loud with the Giants. Why? Organizational. So you need to have good things around you, and whoever gets the 49ers, wow, they're going to have a different experience than Zach Wilson is having, right? So that was my thought then. Now, all of a sudden, I am starting to pivot towards sympathy. I am starting to pivot towards sympathy for who ended up with the 49ers because he's going to get 4 games to show himself. And if he doesn't show himself in 4 games, you stink, you're out, you're a bust, get out of here. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, that does not feel realistic and fair.
That's the first time I've ever heard that point of view on that. And you're right. Oh, you're going to the best place. But the best place also puts the most pressure on you because if you don't succeed early, we think it's your fault because, 4 games in, you're supposed to be, an MVP candidate. You are went to because really, while you're always you put pressure on yourself. Fields and Lawrence and all those guys living up to where they were drafted and trying to make their teams better. It's called the nature of the sport and the position. But in truth, Justin Fields is not worried about if he's the starting quarterback in 2023. That's not. He knows he is. But here. Yep. You're right. Will Trey Lance ever get the chance to make mistakes over an extended amount of time, Peyton Manning 28 picks in the first year of his career, and then go on to be a great player? Will he even get a chance to spread his wings? That's something that we're not sure about. And right now it looks a little iffy because I think patience is going to be a problem.
We're going to take some calls coming up next. As mentioned, Sean Salisbury is here, excited for the entire conversation the whole day, in for Dibs. And also coming up next, many of you listening to this show heard this yesterday, or maybe you saw it on social media. Mike Martz absolutely lambasting both Justin Fields and Trey Lance as players. Sean, you said to me right before the show, you've known Mike Martz for how long?
About 30 years.
Okay, you've known Mike Martz for 30 years, and you said, you know what, I got some things that I would like to say about that. So we will play it again for you. Let Sean weigh in and go from there with your phone calls and much more. So glad you're with us. It's Willard and Dibs with Sean Salisbury today on 95.7 The Game.
Are you looking for a rewarding new career? Join the United States Postal Service and apply for roles nationwide. Serve your community with pride and receive benefits, including competitive pay and opportunities for advancement. Whether you are looking for full-time, part-time, or seasonal positions, we have options that may be perfect for you. The United States Postal Service is an equal opportunity employer. Apply now at USPS.com/careers.
Everything, our farm, our stand, our pop-up shop, it really all started when we discovered the benefits of local, raw honey for our family.
And then we decided to turn it into a business.
We were looking for something to help us get up and running.
So we got the Chase Business Complete Banking Account.
It's more than a bank account. It comes with Quick Accept, which lets us take card payments anytime, anywhere in the U.S. using the Chase mobile app. Plus, we get same-day deposits at no extra cost. For us, it's more than honey. It's about sharing a little sweetness with the world.
Get the Chase Business Complete Banking Account with the essentials you need to help get your business going. Learn more at chase.com/business-complete-banking. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Quick Accept is not available in U.S. territories. Enrollment required. Usage subject to approval. Same-day deposits available for payments before 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday to Friday. Fees and rates apply for checking and processing. Limitations and restrictions apply. Participants compensated. Merchant services provided by Payment Tech LLC and WePay Inc. Subsidiaries of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank and a member FDIC.
Hey, Becky, what about this beat for your next song?
It's cool, but I'm into faster stuff lately. Like Xfinity that gives me beyond gig speeds.
Got it. What about this then?
It sounds powerful, just like Xfinity. Because its supersonic Wi-Fi has 3 times the bandwidth, you can connect hundreds of devices at once.
That's what I call power.
Unbeatable internet from Xfinity. Made to do anything so you can do anything.
Get the Xfinity Supersonic Bundle with unlimited gig speed internet, Wi-Fi equipment included, and a free 4K streaming box. All for $50 a month with a 2-year internet rate guarantee and no annual contract when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data at regular rates. Go to Xfinity.com/gig, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Limited time offer. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay. New gigabit extra internet customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. Xfinity Mobile requires post-pay Xfinity internet. Reduced speeds after 20 gigabytes wireless usage. After 24 months, regular rates apply. Requires compatible Xfinity gateway.
Okay, You know those amazing spots only the true San Francisco locals are in on? Like Square Pizza. That place with the square pizzas? Or Mama Hoo-Hoo? The spot for sweet and sour chicken that's anything but so-so.
Order up!
You know, with the Granch dressing. And all the other spots the real SF locals know without us even saying them. Yeah, they're on DoorDash. San Francisco gets it. DoorDash has it.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you the money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types can qualify, including those that took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help you too. Just go to getrefunds.com/sports, click on Qualify Me, and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to getrefunds.com/sports. That's getrefunds.com/sports.
How's your mental health? I'm listening with Michael Phelps.
You know, I think for me in 2014, when I found myself in that dark place where I didn't want to be alive in those 4 days when I was in my room by myself, I wanted to find a different way. I wanted to find a different answer. I was sick and tired of feeling how I felt, and that's why I started to seek help, and that's when I checked myself into a treatment center.
Join us for Odyssey's I'm Listening 2-hour national mental health conversation, Wednesday, September 21st at 6 p.m. Talk saves lives.
How do you make the most of your land? If you ask the Wrens, who run with us on a John Deere mower, they tell you,
I mow first, then I do all the trimming.
But the Hubbards, who work behind the wheel of a John Deere compact tractor, would say,
if it's something you want, just go after it and try it.
Then there's the Mosers, who may mention from the seat of their John Deere Gator UTV,
You can't be all work and not play.
there are millions of ways to make the most of your land. Learn how to make the most of yours at Deere.com. Nothing runs like a Deere.
Kelley Blue Book is the one-stop shop for pricing, fixing, selling, and instant cash offering. Instant cash offer is exactly what it sounds like. An official offer to buy or trade your car. Just enter your VIN or license plate, answer a few questions about your car's history, and what kind of condition it's in. In minutes, you'll receive an offer to sell or trade your car that you can be sure is fair. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car and schedule a time to meet. For all of the its, KBB.com.
At Left Coast Buyers, we buy properties all over California. If you own a house or an apartment building and want to sell it fast at a great price, call us at 925-434-5000. We can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. We buy properties in any condition, any price range. Do you own a property that is run down and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Are you out of time, money, and energy? Are you looking for an easy way to get top dollar for your property and sell on your terms and timeline? Well, call Left Coast Buyers now at 925-434-5000. We buy divorce houses, inherited houses. We even buy vacant houses and abandoned houses. Do you have a tenant who hasn't paid? Are you behind on property taxes, mortgage payments, or even facing a foreclosure? Even if you're just nervous about capital gains or an upcoming recession, we've seen it all. So if you or someone you know owns a property and needs to sell, call Left Coast Buyers at 925-434-5000. That's 925-434-5000.
Gorillas are bringing that new goal to Chase Center September 21st with special guest Earth Gang. For more info and tickets, get to our events page at 957thegame.com.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMC FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
Easy Lover, that should be for Bonte, right? Happy birthday. Go check out all of the wonderful content surrounding Bonte's birthday earlier today. He's now B40 for the rest of his life. Two people who've already had their 40th birthday, though, hanging with you right now. Sean Salisbury in for Dibs. You're over 40, right? Right, Sean? Do I have that right? Yeah.
I could either confirm nor deny. Yes, I'm over 40.
All right. It's all sponsored by Fremont Bank, full service banking, no compromises. Before we get to Mike Martz and play that, I want to get out to some of our listeners that want to weigh in and throw out some questions as well. Let's go to Jim in Redwood City. Hey, Jim, you're on with Willard, Sean Salisbury. What are you doing?
Hey guys, how you doing? Just working here, taking a little break, listening to you guys, and I just want to say, Willard and Salisbury, what a combo! I mean, I'm a fan of both you guys, and Sean, for years and years and years, your insights are just so spot on. I'm thrilled today. I may have to take off work and just listen to you guys all day.
Yeah, don't you do a darn thing now for the next 2 hours, okay?
Right. What a great compliment. Right? Thank you. Totally. I'm just filling in for a real good one today, trust me. So I'm be out of this chair and let the real one come back in, but thank you.
Okay, so Sean, you asked, why are the 49ers going away from Garoppolo now? And really, for me as a Niner fan, and I'm over 40 also too, and I had season tickets back in when Montana and Rice were playing, third-generation San Francisco native, third-generation Niner fan, so I've got some history with this team. And I think it's simple, because Shanahan knows the 49ers will never win a championship with Garoppolo. He does many things, like you guys have lined up here, and I acknowledge the good things that he does. He does many things very well. But his biggest problem, his biggest weakness is not with his mechanics or anything with how he plays the game. It's the decisions he makes under pressure. He makes bad decisions and throws the desperation INT when he's under pressure. He panics, and this is exactly what we saw in the NFC Championship, the final play of the game for the Niners, when he was trying to scramble away from the rush. He threw that ill-advised shovel pass attempt at the running back that went over his head. The Rams intercepted it, and game over. It's like in that situation, you take the ball, you throw it into the stands, you throw it away, or you just take the sack and kick the ball away. You don't turn it over to the other side. And it's the same thing in the Super Bowl. You know, that no-look interception that he had, and I'm not, you know, where you can see that photo where he's got his eyes literally closed and he throws the ball straight up into the air, which is again intercepted. It's his bad decisions when he panics under pressure is why he'll never be a champion. He'll never get him over the hump. And already with Lance, we're seeing him making better decisions. I mean, he throws interceptions, sure, but he doesn't throw that desperation, eyes closed. He'll take the sack. He's got the arm to throw it into the stands, but that's the key. I think that's the key. And one more thing, and then I'll go. Sean, you said that the Niners didn't get to the Super Bowl in spite of Jimmy G. I think it's the opposite. Look at that NFC Championship when Raheem Mostert ran for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Jimmy only attempted 9 passes.
Yeah, we love to use that, Jim. It was one game, and we love to use that as a narrative, as if they did that in every playoff game. And I'll also add in that when you talk about Jimmy chokes in big situations, which is essentially your point, and then you said we're already seeing that Trey Lance isn't like that, I would counter by saying, well, wait a minute, we've never seen Trey Lance in a big situation, so how do we know what he would do in a playoff game and a Super Bowl? I mean, Sean, you're getting right now this crash course on what this city talks about when it comes up with Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's kind of easy. The cart is always before the horse. If you like Jimmy Garoppolo, you have your 8 things that you're going to point to that were really good, and if you don't, you're going to ignore those completely. You're going to ignore the clutch things that this guy did week 18 last year, the drive to get him in field goal range against Green Bay. You're going to ignore all of that stuff and point to the things that he didn't do. So this is the back and forth that never ended, and we thought it was finally going to end this year, and now we get to still have it not end because he's still on the roster.
Right, and him on the roster, and we're one game in inclement weather. So I'll tell you what, Jimmy, there's some point I agree with you, and point I would challenge. And Mark, you already challenged it exactly well. We see him making good decisions. Well, Jimmy's one of the top 6 or 7 in the last decade, has won more games, winning percentage, than the best regular season wise. So if we're going to say that Jimmy, as Mark said, throws the ball to the other team and chokes under pressure in big moments, we can't say Trey Lance has been in a big moment. Now, every game's a big moment, but the moments, Jim, that you referred to. So we need to reserve judgment on that until he's the one who gets him through a season, and then come January, he's delivering the football, and we'll see what kind of decisions he makes. And the next part of it is, I agree. He's made some, and we said it, 8 to 10, 12 plays in 2 big games. There's been more than 2, but the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship last year, that as a starting quarterback in this league, you have to make in those moments. Yep. You just do. The average ones sometimes do. Those who are below average wouldn't be in it. And good ones will make them more often than the average ones, and the great ones not only make them, they make them on a consistent basis and put them in position to overcome even when you're down 28-3 like Brady. I'll say this is, for me, with Trey Lance and with Jimmy Garoppolo, you say that Jimmy will never win a championship. Then I can beg the question, will Trey ever get to a championship? And one thing I know about this league, the quarterback position, I go back to the 80s when Mark and you were watching when Marino and Elway and Montana and Young and Favre and Moon and Jim Kelly. I mean, we were, for every single one of those guys, a Hall of Famer. I was fortunate to be a part of it. I wasn't one of those guys, but being in the prime of those guys being so good, I thought, how's it ever going to get better? And then we went through some Russell Wilson, but some Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. But I don't think the depth of it, I'm talking about from 1 to 22. If you're the 18th best quarterback in this league, you're pretty damn good. Yeah. I'm serious. But our top 10, our top 5 are ridiculous to the point where it's like, I know the game's changed in rules. We can go back. Things change. But I would say the competition ain't easy. So getting there, as we know, Marino got to 1. We can go all the way through guys who got to 1 or didn't win 1 or didn't get to 1, all those things. And if Jimmy can't win 1, the question is, can Trey get him to 1?
Yep.
So that's a question that they're asking themselves, I'm sure.
Right, absolutely. And the way that conversation has gone, and you used a word, which I don't even think you were necessarily making this point, but it's been used in this city through the years, and that is, and I guess it's more than one word, but the 49ers went to the Super Bowl in spite of Jimmy. I've always thought now I'll never tell you, oh, Jimmy's the reason. Jimmy led them here. Jimmy is Josh Allen. He's not that. But the idea that somehow the 49ers can just grab a guy, hook his belt, and end up in the Super Bowl, and he's standing there going, wow, that was amazing. I can't believe we're in the Super Bowl because I'm sitting here and I don't know what I'm doing. It's already been disproven. Kyle Shanahan's record with the 49ers without him is like the worst record in the history of coaching. Okay? He has, at this point, not been able to find anyone else to win with. So the idea that Jimmy is just there, he actually held them back a little bit, it's a bad point. And it's been disproven already over and over. And that's what Trey's up against. He has to do something that only Jimmy's been able to do. And that is put on a 49er uniform and win at quarterback with Kyle Shanahan as the coach.
Right. And, Mark, you know what else? I'd feel safe in saying this, and this isn't a knock on anybody because I hold the 49ers team and the talent in high regard. And I can just tell you this from playing that position, and plenty of times I made it look tough, trust me, I can go through our roster. At times I started in Minnesota. I'll just use that. We had Rich Gann. We had great players. But left guard, left tackle, Hall of Famer. John Randall, Hall of Famer. Chris Dolman, Hall of Famer. Yep. Chris Carter, Hall of Famer. Anthony Carter. Scott Studwell. I mean, the list goes on. We were friggin' I think we're the most talented team that didn't win a Super Bowl during that time, but you just couldn't plug somebody in and go win a Keith Millard, the Defensive Player of the Year. And so you have to have somebody that I won't make that throw, but that somebody else will. Jimmy's made plenty of throws that helped get them to that point.
Yes.
And Trey may very well, and he will do the same thing during the regular season, whether he gets them there or not. But I'd feel safe in saying this. Roster's pretty damn good. It's been good. I think their defensive front seven is as good as they've had depth-wise. This is a good football team with great skills, and the only thing that's preventing them right now from being great is wondering, well, getting the running game healthy, but the quarterback, what's going to happen? And we could have said that the last couple of years. So, with that in mind, Mark, I'd be willing to take this bet. Jimmy, 2 of his 3 years, had him in NFC Championship games and helped them get to a Super Bowl and play in it. I'll be willing to bet you anything the 49ers aren't going to be in the NFC Championship game 2 out of the next 3 years.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I won't bet you that because I'd be on your side. Just because of math, probability, and what you're up against. And injuries, what you're up against. Right? Like, I mean, my gosh, look who's out there. And I know, and by the way, you say that at a time where the perception, we're 1 game in, but the perception is in the NFC, there's not a whole lot that you got to go through. Right?
Agreed. There's much tougher in the AFC.
Right.
Much tougher.
Aaron and Tom are toward the end of their career. We'll see. Is Stafford actually in the midst of being at the end of his career? We'll see what the Rams look like in their second game. And if that was some sort of an outlier or whatnot. I mean, Philadelphia up and coming. Are they there yet? Like, there's nobody in the NFC that terrifies you. And I still think what you just said is a good bet.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's being the fact that you're not going to have to see Allen. I'm talking about on a consistent basis in the plays. You won't see him until February. Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Carr, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I mean, the list goes friggin' on and on. Right. And if any of these other young studs that have been Trevor Lawrence, if any of these guys step their game, I mean, we're looking at the path you have to go to is a friggin' beatdown. So that's not to say they can't get there, but so the constant, put it this way, Jimmy's underappreciated, and we are way overly impatient with the quarterback position and Trey Lance, and it didn't do him any good that 2 of the best quarterbacks in the world played in that city. Okay, and it didn't do him any good.
That's our bar.
It's not any favors, right?
Yes,
that's exactly right.
That is our bar. All right, 888-957-9570. You know the voice. That's Sean Salisbury in for Dibs. Let's keep it going. Austin in Redwood City is next up. Hey, Austin, what are you doing?
Hey, not much. Just got back to the house. Hey, I want to touch on this Jimmy thing. Hey, man, how is it fair that Jimmy is out the starting job? I feel like the 49ers owed his last season to him, and why not Trey Lance learn this extra year instead of starting greatness right away and wasting this greatness opportunity to being a good player in the NFL. Let's say Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers. That man's going to be a hell of a quarterback once Aaron Rodgers retired. It's just a waiting game. If you can't do that, man.
Well, Austin, thanks very much. You said something that to me, I think anybody watching sports, you got to be very careful about this. And Sean, I wonder what your perspective is. He used a phrase I hear all the time. They owed it to blank. And then you fill in a name. And I can already see you shaking your head, and I agree with you. Nobody owes anything to anybody when it comes to this stuff. You know what they owed Jimmy? His salary. That's what they owe Jimmy. And I'm pretty sure the checks didn't bounce. It doesn't work that way, and the main reason it doesn't work that way is because all of us fans, we will say, you owed it to him, and then the team will go, fine, we'll do it, and then it doesn't work a year later, and you're like, you idiots. I mean, we've watched that as San Francisco Giants fans. There's been the cycle since they were winning World Series 10, 12 years ago. Everybody got a thank you contract. Buster Posey, Brandon Belton, Brandon Crawford, they get a thank you contract, and then 3-4 years down the road, when they look like they're declining, fans go, oh my gosh, you signed a bunch of ridiculous bloated deals. What on earth were you thinking? Now we got to reboot the whole system. It's like, well, you were in the streets screaming, they owe it to blank because of what they did. It's a dangerous game for a front office to play, and quite frankly, they can't play it.
I'm with you. I get Austin's point about wanting Jimmy to play, but it's because they owe it to him. Listen, it is, and it reminds me of when we hear people say, "Oh, Stockton and Malone," or my man Chuck Barkley. They deserved a super. Dan Marino deserved a Super Bowl. Well, you deserve it when you win it. Now, Dan played well enough to get one. Well, then I deserved a Super Bowl. Hell, I was on a roster. I wasn't any good, but I had 10 years. I squeezed out 10. Don't I deserve one for 2 injuries and blown out knee? You get my point,
you
right?
Took some hits,
well, you deserved it. Right. You deserve one. No, I didn't deserve squat other than an opportunity to compete and try to – even then, sometimes you may not even deserve an opportunity to compete, and you get a few short windows to impress them, so you stick around for a decade. In this case, Jimmy didn't deserve – didn't deserve the job handed to him. I would have loved to seen the competition. I would have much rather had Jimmy either play his way out of it, and Trey Lance proved that he was so good. Then I'd have I'm talking about in the comfortability part, Mark. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because I mean, early on, you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And when you say that, some people, well, Trey Lance is going to be great. Well, and I hope you're right. And when Austin said, well, Jordan Love's going to be a hell of a player, it may be somewhere else, but up until this training camp, guess what Jordan Love wasn't talked about? They said he wasn't going to be a player. They're talking about moving. Oh, you heard everybody. Oh, Jordan Love can't play. Now he had a good summer, and everybody's saying, we got a player. And why? Patience, learning, watching. What's the rush? Well, you got a Hall of Fame quarterback in front of him. Jimmy's not a Hall of Famer. I do understand, though, why people, he doesn't deserve, they owe it to him. They don't owe him squat. They don't owe him squat. Just like I don't owe it to a player who comes up to me, Kevin Durant, and I know he's popular, and tells me, hey, I want traded, and here's where I'm going to go. Good. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I want to win Powerball, too. You don't get to dictate to me when you're a player that, oh, you want traded, so I automatically got to roll over and say, yep, I'm going to trade. No. That I guaranteed your contract and all that money, and you're 4 years left. That is what I owe you. I don't owe you squat to do it. I'm doing what's best for my organization. The question we're going to have if it doesn't pick up is, are they making decisions that's best for this current roster? And I sometimes like the Rams approach. They went all in on Stafford and Von Miller, and they did everything they could. And even if they don't win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, and we'll look at all these contracts, they're wearing a fat-ass ring.
They got one.
And I'll take one ring now and suffer for 3 years if you don't get there, as opposed to, well, we're under the cap and we got some young potential, but we ain't winning squat for 5 years. I want to win now, and that's the one thing you owe. You owe it to your roster to give 52 other cats a chance to win a title, whether it's Jimmy or Trey, whoever they think that is.
Totally dig it. Yeah, a lot of people want to weigh in, and we are going to keep coming to you, but I've been waiting for this. We cannot get through the next few minutes without letting you hear once again what Mike Martz said about Trey Lance. This was just within the last 48 hours. And by the way, I'll give you the context also, Sean. He was on this radio station 3 weeks ago, almost to the day, and was saying, like, look, I mean, they're going to coach him up. You see the skill set, and with Kyle Shanahan there, I'm sure it's going to go really well. Obviously, we hadn't really seen him play yet. Then we get one game in a sideways rainstorm, and here comes Mike Martz with this.
I've never seen anything about this kid that was encouraging at all. He really has to plan himself to make a good throw. He's not a quick decision guy. Everybody's shot in the rear about him being a mobile guy making plays with his feet. He looked like a fullback stumbling around trying to run the ball to me. I mean, he's not Lamar, so I don't know what he is. He's not particularly a good guy running with the football. And based on what I saw today, I mean, he missed two guys completely by themselves. I know it was in the rain, but quarterbacks do that. You make those throws. I know this, he can only go up. He can only get better because you can't get any worse than what he did today. I've never liked him. I still don't like him. I'd like to know what he does so well because he's not a great passer, doesn't have good skills, takes him a long time to set himself and throw the football, misses easy throws, and he's not particularly a runner. Other than that, he's a hell of a player.
I mean, woof, absolutely unloads, right? So this is interesting. Now, Mike Lombardi goes public earlier today and says, hey, listen to Mike Martz. He knows quarterback evaluations, and then gave him credit for Kurt Warner, which made me laugh because, A, that was sort of inherited, and B, if all of you had evaluated Kurt Warner, then he wouldn't have been bagging groceries prior to ending up as a starting quarterback. So that's a quick aside. But as you said, you've known Mike for 30 years. What is your take on what you just heard him say?
Listen, and I got to tell you, Mark, I love Mike Martz. Mike's always been great to me, right? Yep. I'm not going to judge a whole life of work by this, I hate Mike. Mike does know the position, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, a lot of that's hyperbolic. There's no way Mike, honestly, if him and I are sitting and having a beer, which we've done plenty of times before, and Mike was a trusted go-to for me when I was doing TV to get insight on their game plan, which I'll share about that Kurt Warner thing you're talking about. Well, listen, Mike's been around it a long time, and sometimes you get to a point, hyperbole and hyperbolic is what a lot of people do now. Now, Mike's old school. I was coached by Norv Turner. Norv Turner's been a mentor and been there. Mike and Norv, they even sound alike when they talk.
Yep.
And they like the pocket, deliver the ball on time, process information, throw it on time with accuracy. If you do those three things and you're not thin-skinned, Mike loves you. Listen, There's no way Mike thinks that Fields and or Trey Lance don't have any skills. He knows better than that. Mike knows better. And, of course, Trey Lance, and slopping around in the mud, Mike knows better than that, too. Mike also knows that while some scoring happens in a rain, but not in a deluge where it's up to your calf muscle and you can't grip a foot, Mike knows this. So I take it with a grain of salt. Mike, who'd you say was Mike Lombardi? About Mike Martz?
Yep.
Mike Martz does know the position. Ask Kurt Warner. Ask Mark Bulger. Ask Trent Green. There is no coach that's coached in the last 30 to 40 years that is tougher and more demanding, and I've known this about Mike forever, on his quarterbacks. The expectations are as through the roof for his quarterbacks as we think it should be for Trey Lance or a rookie starting his fourth game to be Patrick Mahomes. And I mean that affectionately for Mike. Now, listen, if Mike said that in front of me, I'd say, Mike, camera's off now. Let's be real here. Now, do I agree that Mike might not think that he, in the urgency, early parts of his career in Trey Lance or Justin Fields, that they don't process the information or make the reads and deliver the ball to windows and throw people open? Of course, but it's a process. So part of what Mike said is right. A part of what Mike said is BS, and Mike knows it. And a part of it's true because, in truth, and when he says, I don't like the guy, I never liked the guy, well, he's never coached him, and it's early. Because if the guy goes on a roll, guess what Mike's going to say? Well, they've coached him up, and he got improved. So Mike's difficult on quarterbacks. He likes a guy who's tough. And Mike was as tough on the practice. Ask Kurt when you get him on, or Trent Green or Bulger. I'm telling you, Mike will wear your ass out. And matter of fact, Sunday's a bonus because you don't have to deal with Mike for the other 6 days. And I mean that affectionately because he is a grinder. I call Mike Martz. I was at that last game Trent Green played in that game in St. Louis in the preseason game against the Chargers when Rodney Harrison, remember when he rolled into him, blew out his knee?
Yes.
That preseason, they had high expectations. Trent Green, that was a Super Bowl team. I was in the building for doing a special for Sunday Countdown. And it was the last preseason game, talking about how great the Rams are. He goes down, and everybody in the building, Mark, it went dead silent. Oh, my gosh, our hopes are done, right?
Right.
So I call Mike about 2 days later. I'm in the newsroom at ESPN. I said, Mike, what are you going to do? And Mike said to me, he goes, Sean, in that voice, Mike, as he goes, Sean, I really don't know. We're going to start this guy named Kurt Warner. And Kurt Warner, the running back, was my teammate in Seattle. He goes, yeah, we're going to start this guy named Kurt Warner that just knew but didn't know. A guy that was just trying to hang on and be a quarterback in the league, make a roster, right? And he goes out there, and he said, maybe at halftime we'll decide what goes on. And then Kurt goes on, and, Dick Vermeil, the famous speech, we're going to ride with Kurt Warner, blah, blah. And then the season's history, I called Mike a couple weeks later. I said, yeah, how's that guy doing right now? He goes, yeah, Sean, he's pretty good. Meaning, yeah, he can stand in there and deliver the ball on time with accuracy and a quick release, and he's tough as hell. So all those things, but Mike literally, and I'm not dogging Mike, it was just a great conversation. He goes, I don't know, we're gonna play this guy Kurt Warner. And then the MVP and the Super Bowl and all that, and then the rest is history. And Mike can coach his ass off. Mike knows X's and O's. Mike's demanding to unrealistic at times, but you just got to be tough-minded. Now, he'll build a tough-minded quarterback, Mark. I promise you that. But with this, it's what we do now. We say stuff that's all. Now, 4 years in, Mike Martz wants to make that comment. We'll all listen. We will all listen. Yep. I don't think you can make part of those comments. He doesn't like what he sees with him now, but Mike doesn't believe for 1 second that Trey Lance, in my opinion, that Trey Lance doesn't have a skill set.
Sean, this is the first show that you and I have gotten the opportunity to do together, but I want you to believe me on something. I was not trying to reel you in on this. As you were making those comments, something was just whispered to me. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Mike Martz joins us next.
That's my guy.
Mike Martz.
Good, I can't wait. Mike is tough. Yes, I love it.
So, how about that? Okay, with Sean Salisbury in for Dibs, Mark Willard, and Mike Martz joins us next on 95.7 The Game. Talk saves lives. Join us for Odyssey's I'm Listening special, our annual 2-hour national mental health conversation, Wednesday, September 21st at 6 p.m. You'll hear from Drew Robinson, whose story is one you have to hear. Former Heisman Trophy winner Ricky Williams will also join us to talk about his struggles. The 2-hour special is a constructive and supportive conversation about our mental wellness. I'm Listening, Wednesday, September 21st, starting at 6 p.m. right here on 95.7 The Game and on the free Odyssey app. For more, visit I'mListening.org. Remember, talk saves lives.
Cache Creek Casino Resort is the place for the biggest names and the very best in live entertainment. Catch the multi-talented entertainer Gary Vee on October 1st and Amy Schumer on October 8th. Then see live championship boxing on October 29th as Alan Sanchez takes on Sal Bustos. This is your time to cash in at Cache Creek Casino Resort. Find tickets and see our full lineup at cashcreek.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron, owner of California Deluxe Windows. Ever notice? When your neighbors get new windows, there is a large black eye of broken stucco, uneven plaster, and even mismatched paint. At California Deluxe Windows, we never leave a ring around the window. Why? Because we are one of the only companies in California who custom crafts every window and door to your home's exact measurements. Almost everyone else on the radio is a distributor. They grab a window from a warehouse, break open your walls, shove it in, and patch things up. At California Deluxe Windows, we take pride in our work. Our installation technique is so precise, we do not break your stucco. Your house could be covered with potato chips, and we wouldn't crack one.
Call now, and for a limited time, you get 30% off your entire order and 24 months of interest-free financing. 800-874-3600. 800-874-3600. That's 800-874-3600. California Deluxe Windows. Windows engineered for life.
Certain terms and conditions apply. CSLB number 774518.
At Harris Ranch, we do beef, just like we've done for over 50 years. Beef that's raised locally right here in California. Tender steaks, awesome burgers, and California classics like tri-tip roast. The flavor you crave, the quality you trust time after delicious time. Come on, it's time to get out and grill. Harris Ranch, we do beef. Legendary beef, legendary quality. If you're a professional builder or designer, here's some good news from Golden State Lumber. Their relationships with Capital Lumber, Cal Cascade, Humboldt Sawmill, and others have led to an increase in lumber inventory. Golden State strives to deliver most materials the next day, if not the same day. Be sure to download the Golden State app, which provides access to hundreds of resources. Find it at goldenstatelumber.com. For 3 generations, Golden State. When you succeed, we succeed.
Did you know System Pavers has been designing and installing outdoor living systems for 30 years? Since 1992, we've helped more than 80,000 homeowners transform the way they enjoy their outdoors, and they've been happily talking about their remodels ever since.
If I would have known how quick and easy replacing our crumbly old driveway was going to be, I would have contacted System Pavers years ago.
We had a small issue with our outdoor kitchen, and System Pavers went above and beyond to make it right. Excellent service.
I'm Larry Green of System Pavers, and nothing makes my day more than hearing how the quality, beauty, and durability of our work has helped thousands of families make the most of their outdoor spaces.
For a limited time, you can take advantage of special financing and save 10% on an outdoor transformation that'll get people talking too. Call System Pavers at 800-PAVE-004 or visit systempavers.com today.
All orders must be placed by September 30th. See website for offer details. Financing subject to credit approval. Contractor's license 661575.
Visit Friedman's Appliance in Pleasant Hill September 23rd through September 25th for their fall clearance sale event and take advantage of one-of-a-kind opportunities. Visit Friedman's Appliance Fall Clearance Sale event for the best time to save on new appliances for your home.
You're the one who protects the flock, and that requires an eye for detail. Because when safety and well-being are on the line, it's the details that can save lives. Even when no one else is watching, you see everything. Grainger gets you, and we're here for you, and all the ones who get it done with a wide range of safety products and solutions, plus board-certified safety consultants here to answer your questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Dell Technologies' semi-annual sale has arrived, and it's time to upgrade to the latest business technology. Save big on laptops and desktops with Windows 11 Pro. Plus, get amazing deals on server, storage, and cloud solutions, as well as top work accessories, including docks, monitors, and more. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL for special business offers during our semi-annual sale.
Imagine buying a pair of sneakers and getting a soothing, gentle foot massage like you'd get during a relaxing pedicure just by walking. Skechers' new Massage Fit sneakers Because Skechers, the comfort technology company, has designed a unique innovation that makes it feel like you're pampering your feet with a gentle massage in every step. The secret is Skechers' new patented wave technology on the sole that gently massages your feet while you're walking around. Find them for men and women at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
At Churches, we put it all on the table for less. Get 10-piece legs and thighs, 2 large size, 5 honey butter biscuits, and 5 jalapeno peppers starting at just $20. Churches Texas Chicken. Welcome to the great state of flavor. Offer valid at participating locations.
Want some Ringos and Twitch and YouTube? Just search 957 The Game.
The fan, the consumer who's consuming sports media right now is more informed than they've ever been.
Right.
And they are picking like a buffet what they like and what they don't. And they are coming to places like 95.7 The Game because we watch every second over and over and over again. And we know our teams inside and out. And you know what? So do the fans.
This is the premier sports station.
Are you smoking dope?
957 The Game.
The following is an attorney advertisement. If you get sidelined by a workplace injury, the workers' compensation attorneys at Boxer & Gerson can help get you back in the game. Our team of skilled attorneys will fight by your side for the treatment and compensation you deserve. We care about justice for injured workers. That's what makes us Northern California's premier workers' comp law firm. Call Boxer & Gerson at 510-345-2341 or visit boxerlaw.com for a free consultation. Boxer & Gerson, your life is worth the fight.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
All right. We continue on a very, very big day. Aren't they all right now this time of year? It's all sponsored by BMW Now, open in the Fairfield Auto Mall. They provide a luxurious, all-encompassing experience to address all of your BMW needs. Visit bmwfairfield.com today to book your visit. That is bmwfairfield.com. We keep rolling throughout today at 888-957-9570. Comcast business text line as well. YouTube, Twitch, we see you. We love you. We appreciate your comments there. Sean Salisbury in for Dibs today. A little bit of a tech situation with Sean standing by. We're going to reboot with him in just a moment and then bring in former coach Mike Martz, who had interesting things to say about the 49ers and beyond, obviously, earlier this week. So we look forward to that conversation. Until we get that all going, let's keep going with you. Rob in San Francisco, you are next up on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Rob, what are you doing?
I'm at work painting right now.
Painting? Sounds exciting. Well, let's watch the paint dry. Go ahead. Yes. Yeah, thank you, Rob.
No, I'm a painting contractor, but I listen every day.
Thank you.
Hey, first of all, hey, Sean, don't sell yourself short, brother. You had a good career. You had a good arm. I followed you at SC. I followed you in the pros. I love watching you play.
So Sean is reconnecting right now with us, but I will pass the message along. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, Mark, I got more things to say.
Yeah, man. You're fine.
You there?
I'm right here. Take your time.
Hey, got the last call. Hey, I'm fourth generation San Franciscan. I've had season tickets to the Niners since 1978. Before that, we stuck in the candlestick. Before that, we went to Kezar at Christopher Milk. So I want to say this. That one guy that said that we couldn't win a championship with Jimmy G, I'm glad Trey Lance is a quarterback, and I'm giving him 3 years, just like I gave Jimmy G. But if the offensive line played a little bit better, we win the Super Bowl. If that long pass that everybody says that he missed Emmanuel Sanders, he wasn't open. Let's say that was a really hard throw. I think we could have won a championship with Jimmy. So he's got a lot of faults. I think we went as far as we could go with Jimmy. But that guy's a player. That guy can take a hit. That guy can read defenses. He throws a little late. He throws a lot of things. I'm glad that Trey's the man, but I disagree with that guy. And, you know, Jimmy played hard, man. He was a good player.
Hey, Rob, thanks, man. Do you know what I find fascinating? This is something that we do, and I bet you guys have heard this in your own dealings with people in your lives. Have you ever heard someone say, well, that's my truth? And then someone will respond and go, well, wait a minute. No. There's only one truth. There's the truth. And someone else will go, well, wait a minute. You got two smart people sitting here in the room, and I see it one way, and this person over here sees it the exact opposite. How is that possible? Well, You're seeing this right now. You've watched it play out over the last 4 years with regard to the way we all look at whether it's Garoppolo, 49er football. Could Jimmy have won a Super Bowl with the Niners? Of course he could have. Of course he could have. You honestly think that a 10-point lead with 7 minutes to go in a game, and you're going to say, but he's completely actually not able to do it. No, of course not. This is a football team. So you, each human, you get to decide which things matter to you when you want to assess. So if you want to say Jimmy overthrew Emmanuel Sanders, Jimmy didn't see George Kittle, that's your truth. That's your truth. Someone else's truth might be Nick Bosa was held. Offensive line played terrible. Chiefs defensive line took over the game. Kyle Shanahan got conservative. You get to choose whichever thing matters most to you. But as you all damn well know, deep inside the depths of your DNA, you all know that the truth lies in the middle. There's good, there's bad. Nobody's here to tell you that Jimmy's perfect. He's obviously not. But you know darn well that black and white thinking is not the answer. Jimmy can win it. Jimmy can't win it. Stop. There's a football game that got played, and a bunch of things happened. Jimmy contributed to the good. Jimmy contributed to the bad. And then they rebooted and did it again 2 years later, and the exact same thing was true. But this is why it leads to the question I threw out to Sean to start the show. Did the 49ers bite off more than they can chew? Because now we've got two unfair things happening at once. All we had before was one unfair thing, which was that you only wanted to highlight Jimmy's bad. That was unfair. Now we got two unfair things. His replacement gets 3 games, and now you're just going to decide whether he's good or not? That's how you think that's fair? Of course it's not. The truth is always going to lie somewhere in the middle. Dave in Fresno, you are next up on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Dave, what are you doing?
I'm listening to you guys. I'm listening to some of these takes, and I can't wait to hear you guys' conversation with Mike Martz. But I want to bring up what I think is kind of comical about this whole situation. I feel like Jimmy G, he's always been judged on the record. He's never been judged on his play for the most part. And everybody's so quick now. Trey Lance has one overthrow in a monsoon rain, and you want to critique every throw, every handoff. How is he wearing it? Like Jimmy G, if he would have been looked at the same way Trey has been looked at in his quote unquote 3 games he's played, I'm curious to know the criticism, because if you go back and look in Jimmy's just playoff games, it's not good. And I know you want to defend him. He's a good guy. The record is there. It's there. But Dave, I don't need to defend him. I don't need to defend. We got to get through this as a group, and I'm going to let you keep talking, but we got to get through this. I pick that guy and you pick that guy. Do you want to know why sometimes I get accused of being a homer? Do you want to know why? Because I'm just here for the story. Like, I'm not going to be painted as pro Jimmy or pro Trey. I am pro 49ers and I am pro story. I'm here for the journey. I want to see what happens. I know what happened with Jimmy, and we're still sitting here trying to figure out if it was good or if it was bad. It's why I ended up in a conversation with Steiny and Guru yesterday, and as many of you want to yell at Kyle Shanahan, I went big picture and said, do you guys really, really think that the 49ers as an organization are not in a state of health right now? You really want to get rid of Kyle Shanahan and watch what the world would do? Because about 20 other organizations would call him the next day and offer him a job. So we got to get through this whole, you picked him and I picked him, and then we'll find out who's right. Do you know what I mean? Jimmy was good. Jimmy was good. End of sentence. Next paragraph. Trey is in start 4. Let's see where this goes. The question is, and the only reason that this is so unique is because he's doing this at a time where all of us think they should be in the Super Bowl. I don't know many quarterbacks who've been asked to do that in start 4, and so I'm here for the story to see if this kid can handle it. Do you catch me, Dave? Oh, I totally agree. We agreed 100%, brother. I'm this 40-40, and I don't care if it's Trey Dance. I don't care who's quarterback. I just want to win. But I'll be real quick. I think what makes this story so compelling is that the Niners, they traded 3 picks to move up to draft a quarterback. Normally, when a team is like built to win now, you'll trade for like a Russell Wilson, an Aaron Rodgers. You'll trade for an established quarterback because they're built to win. You don't normally see a team that is on the cusp trade to move up and get a quarterback. You would think, hey, we're going to get this edge rusher. We're going to trade for Von Miller. They didn't. So it's kind of an awkward, weird situation. That's why we're talking about it every day, every minute, because you still have the replacement on the roster. I just think the whole handle of this situation could have been done way better. I just don't know what the plan is. I don't think any of us know. That's why we're talking about it, because what is the plan? Because you're keeping Jimmy around in case of what? Because right now, I feel like you got to play Trey no matter what. You made that move. You made that investment. You can't just, let him sit behind Jimmy for 3 years. Because right now in the NFL, you got that rookie quarterback contract. You got to see what you got, And it took a while for Josh Allen to get there. So all I'm asking is we judge Trey how you judge Jimmy, because we never judge Jimmy off ability. It's always been when he starts, the Niners win. So just give Trey a chance.
Yep.
It's way too early to get a good read, or just even after that game. Like, come on, man.
Dave, let me ask you this real quick. You got kids?
Yeah, I got 2 kids.
Okay. How do your plans go on a daily basis?
So I drop them off. I work in the evening, so
Right, but when you make a plan for something with your kids, what usually happens about 90% of the time?
They just got to agree with it.
They got okay. All right. So Dave's not running a meritocracy. Dave, thank you. I appreciate it. The answer is the number one answer on the board on your Family Feud board is your plans change because it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. So we also need to be open for that. I hear this constantly everywhere I go. Hell, I was answering this question in Chicago as we were walking to Soldier Field last weekend. Hey, Willard, what are the Giants going to do this offseason? Somebody tell me, what's the plan? Well, here's the answer. Whatever the plan was, it just changed. Same thing with Jimmy this offseason. This was not the plan. Okay? Having Jimmy on the team was not the plan. And then plans changed. We're all here to guess at why it changed. Did it change because they're concerned about Trey? Did it change because Jimmy was not tradable? Did it change because Jimmy actually thought that this was going to be the best spot for him to continue and set up a contract for next year? We can all debate this forever, and we have to see the way it plays out. But the bottom line is, whatever the plan is, it often changes, right? Take your kids to Disneyland. Okay, this is the first ride we're going to go on. Everybody ready? We're going to be there. We're going to get a fast pass. And right away we go, oh, gosh, the kid just pooped all over the seat. All right, change the plan, right? So that's the way this works. That's the way it's going to work with the Giants. That's the way it's working right now with the 49ers. And so you got to be open to that. You got to be open to that. All right, we're going to keep going with the phones. We're still working to get Sean back. Somebody crashed into a pole outside of his house? Is that what happened? Was it March? Did March drive into a pole so that he didn't need to answer questions from Is that? Who knows? All right, we'll get him back. But Sean is outside tackling somebody right now. We'll get him back. I'm going to keep going with you, but we'll pass along a little bit of breaking news that I think we could see it coming. He definitely wasn't going to play this weekend, but Seahawks star safety Jamal Adams, they moved heaven and earth to get him. He is out for the year. You saw the torn quad tendon early in the game against Denver on Monday night. Pete Carroll, after the game, said it was a significant injury, and now, according to Ian Rappaport, he will have season-ending surgery for the torn quad tendon. He is now going to IR for the year. Adams is still having conversations with doctors about the timing of the procedure that is to come, but there will not be any Jamal Adams in the secondary this week or the rest of the year for the Seattle Seahawks. Mark Willard here with you on 95.7 The Game. Let's keep going. Kenny in Richmond next up. Hey, Kenny, what are you doing?
Hey, man, what's going on, man? I'm working right now, man. How you doing?
Me too. Just works out that way.
Man, I just wanted to weigh in on the reason why Trey Lance is in and Jimmy G is on the sideline. My opinion is the reason why I feel Jimmy G is on the sideline because the same quarterback that when he came to the 49ers and we was excited about him with the 6 games, he's the same quarterback. Nothing has improved. He hasn't improved on his throwing. He hasn't improved on his decision-making. He has not improved. I'm not saying Jimmy G's a bad quarterback. He's not, but he has not improved. So why keep him in if he not have improved? We getting the same results every time we get in the big game and we lose the big game. What's the reason why we lose the big game?
The same. Hold on, Kenny. The same thing happens every time the 49ers are in a big game. Are you sure about that statement?
No. I'm talking about far as Jimmy G, not far as like everything else. I'm just saying when Jimmy G makes his mistakes, it's the same mistake.
Right. But
decision making.
But what if I countered and said, but Jimmy, like that's who he is. Like nobody is running around saying Jimmy's an elite quarterback. Nobody's saying that. But Kenny, you also have to acknowledge how delicate of a situation it is when you have an NFL quarterback with whom you can win. Do you understand how rare that is? Just go through the arc of any NFL football team in their history. Do you know how often a team has a quarterback with whom they can win? I mean, like, I don't have the data in front of me. I would throw this as somewhere south of 10%. The Bears have never had one my whole life. I'm 47, Kenny. The Bears have not had one in my life. And I know they won a Super Bowl, okay, one-off, elite defense, 40 years ago, all of that stuff, okay? But they've never had a quarterback where you're like, man, that's a dude. This is one of the reasons it's funny that we're having this conversation in San Francisco, and maybe it's why. I would argue that the richest quarterback history in the history of the NFL resides right here. It's right here. And it's why we do it the way we do it. It's why a B-plus quarterback isn't good enough. But to say Jimmy never got better, I could counter and say, but he was kind of good enough every time he played. No?
Yes, no, you're right. And that's why I'm not saying, Jimmy G deserves to be, not a starter. I'm not on the hating Jimmy G bandwagon, but every great quarterback that has a Super Bowl or has done something has improved. Am I right?
I don't know yet. I mean, that's what we're about to find out. Kenny, thank you very much. I appreciate the call. Mark Willard here with you, 95.7 The Game. Sean's of Salisbury on the show today as well. We are efforting with some technical stuff to get him back, and we will shortly. We hope Amy Trask is going to be on in 10 minutes. I mean, all you have to do is go back to the Elite Eight, if you want to call it that, of the playoffs last year. And you can see how this usually works. It's football, so there's context, there are upsets, but the quarterbacks who made it to the final 8, you could just make a list, and they were by and large the good quarterbacks, by and large. There were 2 party crashers, if you want to call them that, and it was Jimmy Garoppolo and Ryan Tannehill. I would argue Garoppolo is Tannehill plus, but not much. Not a whole lot better, but yes, better. But those are the 2 guys where you're like, okay, contextually, we got a defense, you got a really good run game, and we can do some things and navigate this, but in the end, we might get beat by elite arm talent. And that's usually, not always. I know everyone loves to go, Brad Johnson, Trent Dilfer. Usually, someone with elite arm talent is going to come get you in the end. And in the end, that's what happened to the 49ers 2 out of the last 3 years. And in the end, that's why I think the 49ers decided, let's go try to find elite arm talent. They could be wrong. I'm here for the effort, for sure. I think it's a gutsy move, and ... That's where it is right now. We're at the end of the ... but nothing else is filled in that blank. Kurt in Dublin, next up. Hey, Kurt, glad to have you. What are you doing?
I'm doing good. Listen to this is a great show. I did have a couple ideas on the Trey Lance Garoppolo thing, especially it appears that you're wondering why Lance over Garoppolo when Garoppolo has got us to deep into the playoffs. And from what I see is that what Lance does is he forces defenses to play our offensive philosophy and our offensive team honestly. His ability to throw the ball deep downfield, his ability to throw outside the numbers, coupled with his ability to run, really puts pressure on opposing defenses that Garoppolo doesn't. When Garoppolo is our quarterback, defenses are able to crowd the line of scrimmage and to really defend the middle of the field because he can't throw outside and he doesn't throw deep very well.
Well, Kurt, I think everything you're saying is true except for you have to end every sentence with "in theory," because you're telling me what Trey does and what you're actually telling me is what the scouting report says he can do. We don't know yet. Yes, the arm talent is there to do that, but then you've got to go do that. And in 3.5 games, we haven't really seen it yet. I understand all of the reasons why, but do you catch where I'm going there? Can Trey do that? Is he going to make the defense play it differently? You heard what the Bears said in the locker room after the game. They said, how do you defend Trey Lance? Their answer was, make him play quarterback. Because we don't know yet. You got to prove that you can go throw outside the numbers 25 yards down the field. Move in the pocket in a way where we can't catch you. We haven't seen that yet, Kurt.
Well, what we have seen, though, is we've seen on 3rd and long, Trey Lance drop back and run quarterback draw and gain those 12 yards and get first down. So now on film, you're going to see opposing defenses and their linebackers not be able to drop so deep and cover those crossing routes because now they have to worry about a quarterback who can run the ball 10 yards. So that stuff will start, as he gets more experience in plays, you'll see more of that. But that's right there is a fact that defenses will see on film that the quarterback can get 12 yards on 3rd and 10 by running the ball. So we have to pay more attention in our drops, and we have to be more vigilant in what we do with regards to our eyes on the quarterback. Now those crossing routes are going to be open because the linebackers are not going to be able to drop as deep.
Kurt, you're absolutely right. ... In theory. In theory. I get it. In theory. Now he's got to go do it. Here's what we're going to go do next. Amy Trask, who, I always give her as many titles as she wants. NFL analyst, CBS Sports, but also former CEO of the Raiders, the Big Three, and someone who loves dogs and ice cream. She is joining us next on 95.7 The Game.
Watch the morning roast on Twitch and YouTube. Just search 957 The Game.
The fan, the consumer who's consuming sports media right now is more informed than they've ever been. Right. And they are picking like a buffet what they like and what they don't. And they are coming to places like 95.7 The Game because we watch every second over and over and over again. And we know our teams inside and out. And you know what? So do the fans.
This is the premier sports station. Spoken dope. 95.7 The Game.
I had a nighttime routine for my frequent heartburn. I would drink milk, I would sleep upright with more pillows, but that painful burning stayed. So I made Prilosec OTC part of my morning routine. With just one pill in the morning, Prilosec OTC prevents excess acid production, blocking heartburn day and night. Now I have a new nighttime routine. I call it sleeping.
One pill, 24 hours, zero heartburn. With Prilosec OTC. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
TrackPhone wants to know, are you an influencer? A big live streamer? No? Then guess what? You don't need an endless data plan. Get just the right amount of data with TrackPhone's $40 unlimited talk and text smartphone plan. Now with 8 gigs of high-speed data and unlimited carryover on America's largest, most dependable network, now with 5G. Get the data you need at the price you want. TrackPhone Wireless. Now you're in control. Available at major retailers. 5G compatible device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at trackphone.com.
Fantasy football leagues are won on the waiver wire, and with trades, and with savvy starter sit decisions. The Fantasy Football Today podcast will help you along the way with the best advice on how to manage your team and dominate your league. With 8 episodes per week, Fantasy Football Today is the only resource you'll need. Start, sit, grade the trade, fantasy cops to settle your league disputes, and so much more. Check out Fantasy Football Today anywhere podcasts are found.
O'Reilly Auto Parts is here to keep your car on the road with our free loaner tool program. Your local store has more than 80 specialty tools available to rent for your next repair. Refundable deposit required. Ask our professional parts people about the loaner tool program today at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
When you can't stop, there's Vicks VapoRub. Vicks VapoRub sends powerful medicated Vicks vapors right to the source of your so you can experience cough relief and breathe easier. Generations of families have trusted Vicks VapoRub to help relieve the worst cold symptoms. So next time you have a cough, reach for the Vicks VapoRub. Vicks VapoRub. Cough relieving is believing.
Gorgeous gaming, stunning streams, unbelievable bandwidth. It's another Lifestyles of Gagillionaires. Meet the AT&T Fiber customers winning at life with hyper-gig speeds. Meet Gagillionaire Terry. While his love of streaming horror movies has him constantly on the edge of his seat, his internet bill won't give him a scare.
Oh, don't go in there. I'm telling you.
Because since Terry upgraded to AT&T Fiber with hyper-gig speeds, he doesn't worry about data caps or equipment fees.
Come on, man. The door's open for a reason.
And best yet, he also doesn't stress about a price increase at 12 months, because with the amazing Gagillionaire lifestyle comes an exquisite sense of tranquility. Most of the time. Live like a Gagillionaire. Get straightforward pricing with AT&T Fiber. Internet that upgrades everything. No data caps, no equipment fees, and no price increase at 12 months.
Limited availability in select areas. Visit att.com/hypergig for details.
This football season, adopt a new tradition that's sure to turn fans into family. The Jim Beam Highball. That's beam and soda over ice with a lemon slice. Share one at the stadium or make one at home. Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2022, James B. Beam Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. Drink smart.
Don't waste your time trying to sell your old car. Donate it to Cars for Kids. It's the easiest and fastest way to donate your car and get a tax deduction. Donate online at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your car today.
At Left Coast Buyers, we buy properties all over California. If you own a house or an apartment building and want to sell it fast at a great price, call us at 925-434-5000. We can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. We buy properties in any condition, any price range. Do you own a property that is run down and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Are you out of time, money, and energy? Are you looking for an easy way to get top dollar for your property and sell on your terms and timeline? Well, call Left Coast Buyers now at 925-434-5000. We buy divorce houses, inherited houses. We even buy vacant houses and abandoned houses. Do you have a tenant who hasn't paid? Are you behind on property taxes, mortgage payments, or even facing a foreclosure? Even if you're just nervous about capital gains or an upcoming recession, we've seen it all. So if you or someone you know owns a property and needs to sell, call Left Coast Buyers at 925-434-5000. That's 925-434-5000.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMC FM at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Now, back to
Willard and Dibs
on 95.7 The Game.
All right, Amy Trask is going to join us momentarily. Willard and Dibs. Dibs is out. Sean Salisbury is, air quotes, in, yet out in the moment because somebody drove into a pole outside of his house. I love to just share with people exactly what happened. Someone drove into a pole, and so now his internet is not working for the moment. We're working on getting Sean back right before we were about to have Mike Martz on, which may or may not happen as soon as we get Sean. But all good, because I love talking to Amy Trask as well. Mike Salk in Seattle is around the corner later on this hour as well. It is all sponsored by Fremont Bank. Full service banking, no compromises. So glad you're with us. Keep it going on the YouTube chat, which has been very, very active today. Twitch as well. Comcast business text line, and we still got plenty of time for your calls at 888-957-9570. But there's only one call that I want to take right now, and it is the unmatched Amy Trask, NFL analyst, CBS Sports, and so many other things, and she knows the drill. When she comes on this show, there is at least always one back and forth about ice cream. What was the flavor last night? Hello, Amy.
Well, first of all, as we learned, you have the girl on the show right now that went to law school, so I'm going to pose a legal objection. Objection, Your Honor, assumes a fact, not an evidence. That assumes that I only had one flavor left.
I love that. Everyone was thinking you were going to say, how do you know I had ice cream? And I'm like, I just do. But you're right. I left off the S. What flavors did you have last night?
All right, I know we'll get to that. And then you always usually have some really hard test question for me at the end.
I know. We may or may not do that today. There's just too much football, Amy, to get into because it's week one. It's overreaction time. That's a tradition in the second and third week of September, but it's especially true in the Bay Area right now. I want to know, in your mind, what is it that the 49ers can even do here? What's the path that keeps everybody in some form cool? We've got a number 3 overall draft pick. He's only 22. Here comes his 4th start. The presence of Garoppolo is still standing there on the sideline. It's like, how is this somehow going to happen where it's not a soap opera? Is that even possible?
Well, let's go back to last year for just 1 minute to set this up. San Francisco was a very, very, very good team last year. Many people have said that, with a top 5 quarterback, maybe even top 6, top 7, with a really, really good quarterback, San Francisco would have been dominating last year. So that's the issue. They haven't yet figured that out. Do they know if Trey is the right guy or not? How long are they going to give him? How many games are they willing to sacrifice as a quarterback learns? I mean, look, a very good general manager, a very good head coach, a terrific team owner. They are together going to have to make the decision. Do we believe he can advance to be the quarterback we believed he could be when we drafted him? And if we believe that, how many games may we be willing to sacrifice? Not necessarily will sacrifice, but be willing to potentially sacrifice to see if he's that quarterback. We've seen around the league over decades quarterbacks who don't do well initially, who eventually turn into very good quarterbacks. We don't know if that's what's going to be the case with Trey or not, and they have to decide how many losses they may be willing to take to see if that is the case.
I know that you're saying they need to decide that, and you're right, but put yourself in their shoes. What would your answer be? How many games can they sit and watch?
Wow, that's a very well-stated question, putting me on the spot like that. And the answer is, my answer is not simply because of that whole law school background, but the answer is it depends. And here is what it would depend on. Do I still have the courage of my convictions? Do I still believe this is the quarterback we believed he could be when we drafted him? If I still had the courage of my convictions, then I would be willing to give him longer. If I was starting to doubt the draft pick, maybe less long. The other thing is, and since you've got the girl on the line right now who is a business executive, a business area, I wasn't in the football milieu of the team, although I always laugh when people say that because the whole thing is about football. But if you're looking at it from a ticket sales, a sponsorship, and advertising standpoint, the 49ers don't have to worry about that. They are a well-run business. They're not one of the teams scrambling to find ticket holders, scrambling to find fans to attend the games, scrambling to find sponsors. So they've got a bit of leeway in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. That I get, and the health of the organization has already been established. But what a great person to ask, and I'm talking about you, Amy, because of your background with the phrase, just win, baby. And then you have a game last week where a lot of us, self-included, I was in the building and I was in the outside portions of it. I can find all kinds of things that happened in Chicago last week where I want to say, look, this was good, this was bad, and on this, we need to wait and see because of the circumstances of that game. That's not a just win, baby comment that I'm making. So you tell me, is that fair? Is it fair to talk about weather, first start as QB1, all of that, or is it just win, baby?
Well, again, it goes back to the point of, do you still have the courage of your convictions that this is the right quarterback for the future for your team? Because if you're doubting yourself, if you don't think that this is the guy, you're going to give him less leeway. If you still believe he is the man that can lead your team for years or decades to come, sure, you're going to look at weather. You're going to look at the condition of that field. My gosh, it was like a slip and slide. And by the way, who among us did not love slip and slide? Do you remember those?
Of course. And we've got a history with it here. Nick Bosa did this in Washington just a couple of years ago.
Zach Crockett.
Right. It looks like a ton of fun.
Zach Crockett did it in Oakland. We won a big game, and afterwards he was slip and sliding. And I was so desperate to run down on the field and do slip and slide, and my husband grabbed my arm and said, yeah, that's not really a good look. And I'm still to this day annoyed that I didn't do the slip and slide. But my point is, you know, if I still believed that this is the man that could lead my team, and I don't know what the 49ers believe in that regard. I don't know what their internal discussions are, the discussions that are only behind closed doors and not making it to the public. If they still believe this is the guy, well, then, yeah, of course you're going to factor those things in.
Did you see, when Jimmy was re-signed, did you see that as circumstantial, like they said publicly, or did you see it as a hedge?
Yes and yes. And that's, yes and yes. Do I see it as a hedge? Yes, I do. And I'm, of course, using hedge in the financial sense. Did I also think it is circumstantial? Sure. Going back to the shoulder and the ability to trade, and clearly there wasn't a market at the, at the price they wanted. So yes, I think it was a hedge, and yes, I think it was circumstantial. The thing that jumped out to me when they re-signed Jimmy was the fact that reputedly, Kyle and John met with some team leaders, I think a dozen or 15 team leaders, and said, need you to throw your support behind Trey, need you to show your support for Trey, whatever the exact words were. And I certainly understand the message they were trying to convey, but that stood out to me because I think support should be organic. It shouldn't be dictated.
Amy Trask with us, CBS Sports, also her time with the Raiders we know. And so with that, one more, Amy, and that is this. Chiefs and Chargers tonight. And right, your thoughts about this division and whether or not Derek Carr or anyone else is going to have an opportunity to win it again with these two quarterbacks in it.
Magnificent division, and I say this not simply because I spent my whole career in the AFC and with the Raiders in the AFC West. I think it's the best division, top to bottom, in the NFL. It doesn't mean there aren't terrific teams in other divisions, but if you want to say which division has the four teams that all of which could be contenders, I say it's the AFC West. Tonight's game, I have a very technical term for you. It's a football term about tonight's game. Delicious. This is a delicious game because, look, these four teams are very, very good, but they have to play one another twice. So they're going to beat up on one another, obviously, and a division win will mean a lot in this division. You're right. Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, they are magnificent quarterbacks. But you know what? Russell Wilson is I think Russell Wilson is magnificent. I think Russell Wilson has been underappreciated and underestimated his whole career. And Derek Carr is a good quarterback. But, I think you look at the combination of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and to me, that's just a wow. Now, Josh McDaniel may turn into that. We just don't know yet.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to sort of quote Sarah McLachlan, Amy, this game is better than ice cream.
Well, let's not get carried away, okay? But I can assure you of this. There will be an ice cream sundae bar set up in my house, and by bar, I mean all the toppings. all the whipped cream, toppings, sprinkles, everything, and multiple flavors of ice cream. And if you're thinking, gee, how many people are you having over? The answer is just me and my husband.
One or two, yeah. Amy, you're fantastic as always. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's always my treat.
Okay, she's the best. She's Amy Trask, and I'm actually overwhelmed by the power of this room right now to go from Amy Trask to next, re-welcoming Sean Salisbury back into the show. How you doing, brother? You okay out there?
Hey, when people run into polls and take all of what timing, right? We're waiting for our buddy Mike Martz to come on, and everything goes out in my house. So it's great to be back on.
Well, and yes, I'm so glad to dive back in with you. And guess what? Let's also thank the patience of your longtime friend, Mike Martz, who is absolutely here and ready to go as well. So, Coach, thank you so much for doing it. And say hello to Sean Salisbury, who's just been through internet hell.
Mike, how are you, buddy?
It's good to talk to you. I'm doing good.
Great to talk to you, Mike. I appreciate you coming on, and we're having some good fun. I told him, I said, you may be as tough as anybody on quarterbacks, but they produce, and it's great to have you on. It's been too long, my friend. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And obviously, I know you're well aware of this. Your comments after the Bears-49ers game were very interesting to everybody out here. And so, would love to hear a little bit of an expansive comment, if you will, on where you're coming from with regard to not just Trey Lance, but how you go about that evaluation and how you came to some of those conclusions.
I think you have to start, with Shannon and John Lynch. Obviously, I think the world of them. I know they know what they're doing. They're beyond reproach, in my opinion. So I was really excited to see Trey play with all the things with Jimmy G, and then when I saw him play, I know that they've had him for a year, and it was just so hard for me to understand how he could play like that. I know he's being coached. I know all that stuff. It was very disappointing, to say the least. And, they're such a good team. I'm excited for the 49ers. I think that they can win that, division and be real good this year. And it was hard to watch him play. And I know that does happen, Sean. You've seen quarterbacks in your career.
Right.
Have a moment like that, and hopefully that's all that is. But it wasn't good, and it just makes you wonder. Now, hopefully he can get past that and play well this next week, and if he doesn't, then they've got a dilemma on their hands.
All right, Mike, in your overall assessment of him, you've done some miracles with a lot of great players and have had some great players and have always been demanding on your quarterbacks, which is a good thing. If you had him in the meeting room this week, that's Trey Lance, what would you say to him?
Well, I've had this happen to quarterbacks before, and, if you can't deal with the stress of it, then you don't belong, and you just have to find in your heart how to deal with it. You've got to be beaten down so far that you say that's enough, and you come out shooting, and I've had that happen to a lot of guys. It happened to Kurt, it happened to Mark. It happened to a lot of people. They discard it, and they have a bad moment or so, and they come back and they play well. I don't know anything about his background. In other words, his background isn't very extensive. I think where he was as a young player in college and where he is now, I think it's a long trip. A lot of guys have played a lot of snaps. I don't know that he has, and the transition is going to be more dramatic for him, certainly. His skill level, I haven't seen nothing to know what the skill level is, but just listening to what everybody said, I was really anticipating more than what we saw, of course, in that game. So I don't know what he is, and maybe he's one of those guys that's going to take a few years, but in the meantime, they've got a really good football team, so what do you do, right? So hopefully they can win while he develops and comes along, and if he doesn't, then I think they probably would need to make a change.
Mike Martz with us here on 95.7 The Game. Coach, I think a lot of people listening, when you say that what you watched against Chicago was not very good, I think a lot of people who watch the game with just fan eyes say, look, some good throws in the first half, game got sideways, rain got sideways, definitely not perfect, but not awful. And it sounds to me like you thought it was really bad. What are the specifics that you saw that were so concerning?
Well, he just did some things you just can't do. You know, I mean, he was very slow, and they done things down for him a little bit, and missed throws he shouldn't miss, and I don't care about the rain. You know, you think he's the first guy to play in the rain and throw the football. You know, I mean, that doesn't fly with me. Wind and rain, you still play and you play good. That's the way it goes. But I just thought I'd see more out of him. He's been sitting in the wings now for a year. I thought he would play a lot better than what he did, and hopefully this next week he'll do that. I don't know, but like I said, through their eyes, they've seen him every day for over a year, and I'm sure that they're confident with him, and that's fine. Hopefully he comes to that point here in the next week or two where he's who they hope he'd be.
Mike, give me 2 or 3. When you're evaluating these guys, which you've done for so long, give me 2 or 3 traits when you want a quarterback that not a regular season quarterback, a guy who's going to take you where do you want to go where you've been in the Super Bowl. So with Trey Lance, give me 2 or 3 traits you have to have in a quarterback to win.
Well, the first one, Sean, is accuracy. You just can't miss. Bernie's MP, he told me when I first came into the league, I said, how do you evaluate quarterbacks? He said, do they throw it straight? You know, they just, guys are really good ones, they don't miss. You know, it's very seldom do they miss. They can put the ball wherever they want. I don't know that he has that. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him. And then the other thing is the ability to see, and Sean, you'll know this, is seeing your react quickly without having to think about your throws. So, you know, just flashes, the ball's out. Boom. And if you have to think about what you're seeing, then you're late with the ball. And he certainly is late with the ball to me, and not real accurate, and he's late with the ball. The other thing is there's a mental toughness and a physical toughness that goes with that you can fight through these kinds of things and come back out on top and play well. You know, in Kurt's first start for us against Baltimore, he threw 3 picks in the first half. He came back and was brilliant in the second half. That's when I knew we had one, you know. And hopefully Trey can do that. But it's unfair for me really because I don't see him every day, to know what he is as a passer. All I know is what I saw in that game, and it was very concerning to me.
Mike, I wonder if you can speak to just being the head coach of a situation like this. Maybe you can't because we've never seen a situation like this where you excuse me, you put a presence like Garoppolo on the sideline and then watch a young guy go. You said earlier, if Trey doesn't play well here in the next few weeks, they've got a dilemma on their hands. How long before this is a dilemma? Like, how long would you let this go before you feel like you got to do something about it?
It's pretty easy. I think if he's the reason, if you're not winning and he's not getting enough out of that position, then you're forced to make a change, I think. You know, they know that. Because you got a good football team. You know, if they're Jets or the Jaguars, someplace like that, you know, it's a whole different banana. You know, you can be patient with them and develop them because you're bringing the whole team along. They're all growing, so to speak. But that's not the case here. This is a good football team, and you don't want to hold them hostage as he develops. And perhaps he's going to be a great player in the future Hall of Famer. It certainly could happen, but it's one of those situations where he may have to sit for a while and learn the game a little bit better than what he does right now. And you know, I hope here in the next week the light goes on for him and he plays really well. I really do, but it was very concerning.
Yeah, Mike, I hear, throughout this in my career and doing this and you doing it and playing, there's people who will always say, well, you owe it to a guy to clear the room and let him learn without looking over his shoulder. I'm not in the feel-good business. I'm in the business of winning games. So if you can't handle competition in the room, then you're probably not the guy for me. And I'm not just talking Trey Lance, I'm talking anybody. So with that in mind, with Jimmy in the room, is it more I got to worry about the quarterback's feelings, or I should take into account the 52 other cats in the room?
Well, I understand your question. I think in that position, you don't belong there if you can't deal with that. You know, playing under that type of pressure is what it's all about. You have to be the toughest, most competitive guy on the sideline next to the head coach. And if you can't deal with that, then you really don't belong to have that job. You shouldn't have it. And in a lot of the cases, I think, Sean, you develop a callous for it. But there's an inner confidence and a belief in yourself that takes over at some point, and you just don't worry about that stuff. If you don't have that, that means in tough situations, the NFC Championship, or you spit the bit. You got to find out. You just got to know whether you can, owe up to that and deal with it. and you know that as a quarterback, I'm sure you've been in that situation all those years that you played. You played at a very high level. You understand that pressure.
Mike Martz with us here on 95.7 The Game. Coach, I truly, genuinely want to know where you're at on this, because as I hear you talk about Trey Lance now, it feels like you didn't like Chicago, but you're sort of wait-and-see mode, and you have trust in Kyle Shanahan. But your statement the other day was, I don't like him, I've never liked him. So, like, right? Like, is that how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I watched him coming out. There's nothing that I saw in him that relates to the NFL at that position. And but like I said, I'm limited in what I've seen, so I get all that. They've seen him. They know. They've got all the information. And I trust Kyle and his ability, and certainly John Lynch is beyond reproach in my book. So they know more than I do about it. But from my observation, I don't get it. Just don't get it. And maybe they're going to change what they do on offense to fit him. That certainly is a possibility. But, in the meantime, you got to win games. That's the bottom line. And I know this. When I turn a game on in the past, when I turn the TV on, the team I want to watch the Chargers, and I want to watch the 49ers. I just love what they do, and Shanahan is ahead of the curve offensively with how he does things. And, so when this happened, like a lot of people, I think I was really disappointed.
Mike, who gives them the best chance?
Excuse me, and the Bears are not very good now. They're just not good.
Right.
Now they're doing a good job of coaching, but personnel-wise, when you look at their roster guys, they're not very good. And so to go back there and stumble around against that team, and they just the 49ers looked like, to me, that in the second half they lost heart a little bit. They just couldn't, move the ball.
Who gives them a better chance to win in 2022, Mike? Is it Garoppolo or Trey Lance, in your opinion?
I think that still remains to be seen. I think you got to give the young man a few more weeks here to see where he is and how the team plays with him. But there'll come a point where if he's not growing, if he's not getting better, if they're not winning, then it's a tough situation. It's so unique in this league where they are. It's just like Herbert, his rookie year. He comes off the bench and catches fire. You'd like to see a first-round pick do that kind of thing, but they're all different, and they all get to that point. The best they can be, so to speak, at different speeds. They just do. They're all different. So perhaps this is going to take a little bit longer and develop. I don't know, but we're going to, the next week or two are critical weeks for him.
And Mike, remove Trey Lance from this for a second. I don't think I've ever heard your evaluation while Jimmy was the starter. How you feel about him? What's your evaluation of Jimmy Garoppolo?
I love Jimmy. I'd love to have him. I'd love to coach him. I hear all he does is win. That's what you do at quarterback, right? I hear so much about what he can do. I see him do a lot. Look at his numbers. I compare his numbers to anybody in the league, really. So, and I don't know what the situation between he and the coaches, or I don't know. It's none of my business, to be honest with you. But I like watching him play. He gets the ball out quick. He sees things very, very well. I like watching.
Mike, it sounds to me, and you've been very clear. Like you're not here, you're not watching all the practices, obviously, and you've got a lot of trust in Kyle and John. But the evaluation of Jimmy and the evaluation of Trey, is it fair to say that you think they made a mistake, or that you would not have done the same thing?
I can't answer that because I don't know Trey. I just don't know him. And Sean, you'll know this, in practice, there's so many practice hours involved. He may have been just lights out all camp, and they got in the game and spit the bit. That could certainly happen. It's happened to me before with quarterback. So it's not fair at this point to write him off. But, I never really, I just never, because I haven't really seen a lot of him, but what I've seen, I was just never really impressed with the kid. But that doesn't mean I know what I'm doing with this, because I've never been around him. They have.
Mike, for the next 5 years, you got one quarterback to lead any franchise that you're coaching. Who is it?
Herbert.
Ooh.
Why?
Oh, I think he's the best there is right now. I think he's on his way to just being stupid good. He's so accurate with the football. And he, that pressure we were talking about,
yep.
He comes off the bench just in a heartbeat and is instantly good. That's a toughness inside that very few guys have. And in his mind, he wants to be the best player in the history of the game. And those guys, I know he checks in early and goes home late. You know, the quarterback coach down there real well. He worked for me, Shane Day, and Shane is telling me some of the things about the character of him. And he's a coach's dream in that respect. You know, he's a sponge, and he's just he lives next to the stadium, so he can get to work quick. You know, I mean, but physically, he's 6'5". He can run. He can move. He sees things really well. But some of the throws he can make, there's just very few guys in the league that can make. It's, you know, Aaron Rodgers, Brady, those kind of guys, Mahomes, those kinds of throws, you know, that they're truly great ones have, and I think he has all that.
So over Mahomes and Allen.
Yeah, for me, yeah. I think he's going to be ridiculous. You know, he was not on a good football team. Let's face it.
Right.
You know, you look at the offensive line they had defensively. I mean, they're like the turnstiles out in front of the stadium. So it's, you know, they've done all that work on defense in the off season and bolstered the defense and helped the offensive line. If they'll give them the pieces to help, you know, there's nothing this kid can't do. You know, and I understand Patrick Mahomes. I understand, you know, the other guys and all that, but this is a young player who's got just a huge future ahead of him.
Coach,
I can't wait till tonight, Mark.
Yeah,
I cannot wait till
this
tonight.
one is about as good as it gets. Coach, thank you. Yes, thank you so much for coming on.
Mike, great to talk to you.
Me,
Mike, I'll drop you a message this week. Always great to hear from you, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Sean. Take care.
You bet.
All right, there he goes. Mike Martz, and we need to work through some of the things he said for sure, plus Mike Salk, who is the host of the Mike Salk Show on Seattle Sports Station, to start looking at the Seahawks, is around the bend as well. We got Sean back. We are ready to go on Willard and Dibs with Sean Salisbury in for Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
O'Reilly Auto Parts is here to keep your car on the road with our free loaner tool program. Your local store has more than 80 specialty tools available to rent for your next repair. Refundable deposit required. Ask our professional parts people about the loaner tool program today at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey, Becky, what about this beat for your next song?
It's cool, but I'm into faster stuff lately. Like Xfinity that gives me beyond gig speeds.
Got it. What about this then?
It sounds powerful, just like Xfinity. Because its supersonic Wi-Fi has 3 times the bandwidth, you can connect hundreds of devices at once.
That's what I call power.
Unbeatable internet from Xfinity. Made to do anything so you can do anything.
Get the Xfinity Supersonic Bundle with unlimited gig speed internet, Wi-Fi equipment included, and a free 4K streaming box. All for $50 a month with a 2-year internet rate guarantee and no annual contract when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data at regular rates. Go to Xfinity.com/gig, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Limited time offer. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay. New Gigabit Extra internet customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. Xfinity Mobile requires post-pay Xfinity internet. Reduced speeds after 20 gigabytes wireless usage. After 24 months, regular rates apply. Requires compatible Xfinity gateway.
The gamer, the call maker, the experience chaser. What if you could be everything all at once? Galaxy Z Fold 4 is powered by the Snapdragon processor for world-class performance and lightning-fast speed to turbocharge your multitasking. How about an expansive edge-to-edge screen for immersive gaming, hands-free video calls with flex mode, and multi-window view to use up to 3 apps at the same time? With Galaxy Z Fold 4, do more with ease and make multitasking a breeze. Available now at Samsung.com.
Hi, I'm Aaron, owner of California Deluxe Windows. Ever notice? When your neighbors get new windows, there is a large black eye of broken stucco, uneven plaster, and even mismatched paint. At California Deluxe Windows, we never leave a ring around the window. Why? Because we are one of the only companies in California who custom crafts every window and door to your home's exact measurements. Almost everyone else in on the radio is a distributor. They grab a window from a warehouse, break open your walls, shove it in, and patch things up. At California Deluxe Windows, we take pride in our work. Our installation technique is so precise, we do not break your stucco. Your house could be covered with potato chips, and we wouldn't crack one.
Call now, and for a limited time, you get 30% off your entire order and 24 months of interest-free financing. 800-874-3600. 800-874-3600. That's 800-874-3600. California Deluxe Windows. Windows engineered for life.
Certain terms and conditions apply. CSLB number 774518.
At BMW of Fairfield, our guests work with one client advisor through the entire transaction. No handoffs to multiple car salesmen. No waiting for a finance manager to take you to a back room. Client advisors at BMW of Fairfield are thoroughly trained in every aspect of the process so they can lead you efficiently and effectively through the purchase from start to finish. There is a better way. Experience it for yourself at BMW of Fairfield. One price, one person, 1 hour.
Bart is turning 50 and we'd love to celebrate with you. Get 50% off your ride in honor of Bart's 50 years of service to the Bay Area when you pay with Clipper. That's 50% off Clipper Bart fares for the entire month of September. Add Clipper to your digital wallet for free. If you're eligible for other Clipper discounts like youth or senior fares, you get to take an additional 50% off those too. Details at bart.gov/50 years. That's bart.gov/50 years. Celebrate Bart's 50 years of service with us this September. Let's go!
From carriage house to glass aluminum doors, R&S Doors has a full line of commercial and residential garage doors and gates to suit anyone's taste and budget. Visit rsdoors.com. R&S Doors. Look for the red truck.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required. Refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. You'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. Results are guaranteed or your money back. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/JOY.
The Doobie Brothers 50th Anniversary Tour is coming to Shoreline Amphitheater September 27th, and 95.7 The Game has your tickets. For your chance to win, head to our contest page at 957thegame.com.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
Okay, we got a lot to work through, and Mike Salk's going to hop in here in literally just a couple of minutes. But I'm spinning, Sean. There's a lot of quotes from Mike Martz, who just joined us, that are interesting. I mean, let's start just with quote on Trey Lance. There's nothing I've seen in him that relates to the NFL. What'd you think of that?
Well, I know, like I said, I know he's harsh, and we've talked about it. And you talk, and Mike admitted it. He's hard on him and beats him down and breaks him down every way, shape, or form. But he also said the other thing that, well, I haven't seen enough of him. So the thing for me is that if you say you haven't seen anything, that was a rain game and a couple starts last year. So if it's a rain game, then Mike, and then he said, and Mike wants to wait 2 or 3 weeks or give the guy some weeks to have a chance. I think it's ridiculous that the Trevor Lawrences and the Fields, I know they're different teams, but that the judgment we put on Trevor Lawrence that we want to run, I'm talking about all of us, not just Mike, any of us, and the umbrella that, oh my gosh, let's run him out of the building after 3 starts in the National Football League. I think what Mike's saying is he didn't see the traits he likes early, but he's going to give him a chance to see if he likes them a little later on. But it is impossible for Mike to judge Trey Lance as a thrower after last week's game. So I think that Mike's playing both sides of it. I understand. but he also wants to give him a chance to see what he can do. He just hasn't liked his game, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And we're okay to disagree with that.
Sean Salisbury in for Dibs. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is he kind of did put a date on it when he said, you got to let the guy play for a few more weeks. We're all sitting here talking about if it's not going well, when does your mind start to go, do we make a change? Mike says, and this is wild, a few weeks. That means, week 4 or 5.
Yeah, is a few weeks 8 or is a few weeks 4 of them? That's still not enough.
Right.
It's still, to me, it's still. Now, whether you like, it doesn't matter who you like or who Mike or you and me like, is that enough to truly evaluate the quarterback position? But Mike said what I told you he'd say about the quarterback position and winning and mental and emotional toughness and throwing it to the right guy and putting your team in position. And listen, I don't know how anybody can evaluate a position, expert or not, me, you, him, anybody, in 3 weeks' time and knowing if he's got the same skill set that you need to have or that dynamic skill set that you have to have that elevates you to another level. And he mentioned Herbert. Well, Herbert's first start I don't think was in the rain. I'm talking about as the full-time starter on the road in the rain, whether it's a bad team or not. So I get where Mike's hardcore evaluation is coming from. But I also know that we have not seen enough, and it is completely unfair for any of us to judge the dude after 3 starts, because if we do, we might be missing out on something special.
Sean, let's go to a man whose team has the quarterback position all figured out, and that is Mike Salk, host of the Mike Salk Show on Seattle Sports Station. Man, Mike, thank goodness you talk about a football team that doesn't have any discussion going on at the quarterback position. Am I right?
Hey, look, I didn't coach in the league like Mike Martz did, but I'll tell you right now, Trey Lance is not very good. I don't know what else you need to know. You watched him play. You don't even need to watch him. You know how I know he's not good? Because they brought back Jimmy Garoppolo. You guys have the easiest job in the world talking about this Niners team. What a complete debacle they have made of a championship caliber roster. What a hysterical situation from Seattle.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you something. Do you honestly think that it was a distraction, good for the team or bad for the team, to put Garoppolo back in the building?
I think it's a disaster, but I think you have to do it because you don't trust the guy you traded up for with the 3rd overall pick. I mean, I think it's a mess, and it's funny to me. I watched that game on Sunday, and I'm just watching going, I know it's in the rain, but it looked the same as what I saw from him last year against Seattle, what I saw from him last year whenever else he played. He's just not an accurate passer. He can run and he can move, and he's obviously got an arm that's strong, but if you can't be an accurate passer, you know that, Sean. If you can't be an accurate passer in the NFL, then you're not an NFL quarterback. And I watched Geno Smith. I know what it looks like to have a great NFL quarterback.
I mean, that performance, and again, you know what, it's funny, Mike, because Sean and I were talking about this earlier. The way we watch sports, maybe this is fair, maybe it's not, but the way we watch sports is all based on the expectations that we have going in. Geno Smith, very efficient, nice quarterback rating. I've never heard people gush over somebody who threw for less than 200 yards and got shut out in the second half before. Now I have. I had never seen that before.
Yeah, it was quite a night on Monday night. I was there. It was intense. The booing was loud. It was as loud as that stadium has been in years. The Seahawks played into it, right? They brought back Richard Sherman and Marshawn Lynch and KJ Wright and tons of other guys, Cliff Averill. And they were showing them in order to get the crowd to cheer, and then showing Russ in the blue and orange, and the crowd obviously would then start booing. I mean, the Seahawks played into it, and we interviewed Pete on the show on Tuesday and said, okay, did you have a role in that? And he said, yeah, I did. And then Pete said it was personal, and he made it very clear that this game meant more, not just to him, but to all of those guys that I just mentioned, the Legion of Boom guys who, for whatever reason, just aren't able to stomach Russell Wilson and wanted the Seahawks to win that game more than anything.
Mike, looking forward, when this offseason, when they went through this quarterback situation with Locke and Geno competing and didn't make a move for guys in free agency or draft a guy, were the Seahawks, was a part of their plan front office? Players don't, tank's a bad word, but Are they looking forward to drafting somebody in the first round next year? Was this just, let's hold it over, and we're not going to trade for somebody that can put us in draft purgatory?
It's such a good question, right? Because when you're Pete Carroll and your whole mantra is compete every day, always compete, you can't tank, right? You're a culture builder. That's what Pete is good at. There's no way you can tank. And, by all accounts, they were interested in Deshaun Watson when he first became available. So at that point, I don't think they were in tank mode. They brought back Quandre Diggs. They re-signed DK Metcalf rather than trading him. So they didn't go all the way to the idea of tanking to try to get one of the top couple picks. But at the same time, they didn't go after Baker Mayfield. They didn't go after Jimmy Garoppolo, or if they did, they couldn't get him. And so I think it's a really fair question that I've been trying to answer myself for the last couple of months. I think they're in wait and see, right? And I think it's kind of where they should be. You start off the year with Geno, or if it had been Drew, you see what you're capable of. If it goes well, great. Cool. I mean, who's going to complain about having a good season? And if it doesn't go well, well, so be it. And you put yourself in position sooner rather than later to pick one of 2 or 3 guys that are coming out in the draft next year that maybe you like a lot more.
Mike Salk, host of the Mike Salk Show, Seattle sports station, all over the Seahawks, joining us here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Willard, Sean Salisbury is here for Dibs today. Okay, Mike, so what are we looking at this weekend? Here's one question that's been bouncing around in my mind. Seattle, in the last handful of years, Pete Carroll has largely owned games against Kyle Shanahan. My perception has always been Russell Wilson, fourth quarter magic. Russell's not there anymore, so does what has happened in recent past still hold, or are we starting over a whole new thing here this weekend?
All I know is if this game comes down to a final field goal and somebody says 46 yards left hash to kick a 64-yarder for the win, I will be very surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, a lot of it is Russ. A lot of it is Pete. I don't know that you saw the real Seahawks last week. I mean, I think that was their Super Bowl in week 1. And because of it, I worry that, A, they're going to be a little bit of a hangover, and B, that the expectations now are going to be higher than they probably should be for this group. There's a lot of kids. They got a lot of rookies. They're starting 2 rookie offensive tackles. They're playing, their third pass rusher is a rookie. Their starting cornerback is a rookie. I mean, that's 4 guys who are getting significant run that have, now played 1 game total in the NFL. So I would be a little concerned about the Seahawks coming back to earth. They just don't have a roster that matches up with San Francisco's or a lot of the teams in the league right now. But they do have some talent, and Pete, you're right, has had Shanahan's number. I think a lot of it was Russ, but some of it is Pete's commitment to stopping the run, and I think that's the key. If you're going to try to stop this San Francisco team, not just because of Shanahan, but because of the quarterback, and I'm sorry to bring it back here. I know it's sort of exaggerating before, but if I'm Pete Carroll, man, I got as many guys in the box as I can, and I'm going to be challenging Trey Lance to complete passes with any degree of accuracy.
That is a great point. Mike, I want to go back to this Russ Wilson thing. I mean, obviously Denver looks at him as a treasure because they paid him $250+ million, right? And so all that time in Seattle, we hear it. We hear all the smoke coming out of there over the course of a time. You mentioned it being personal for the players and Pete. Why, if they don't, why is Russ Wilson in that building so disliked or disrespected by the players?
It's such a good question, and we had KJ Wright on yesterday. He does an hour with us every week, and trying to get that out of him. And it I will admit, as a human, it sort of bothers me. Russell Wilson is inauthentic. He is sort of he's selfish, right? He cares more maybe about his legacy. He's just not a great teammate. But there is a part of, and I totally understand why that is a problem for those guys. It bothers me that Russell Wilson's teammates will speak out against him, while Deshaun Watson and Brett Favre's teammates won't. Guys who have done things that I think are a whole lot worse than caring about their legacy. But, that's the NFL, right? That's locker rooms, and that just seems to be the way they handle their business. I think some of it's the credit game, and Sherm and Doug and some of those guys got really wrapped up in it. Some of it was this idea of whether or not Russ was treated the same as everybody else, whether he was held to the same level of accountability. There are those, and I think Earl Thomas kind of started this idea, that truly believed that Pete Carroll threw the ball at the 1-yard line because he wanted to make Russ the hero rather than Marshawn. I don't believe that, but I think there are guys that do. And so, all of that together, then coupled with Russ's desire in the last couple of years to become a MVP guy so he could work on his legacy. Go back to that game on Monday night. Russ threw the ball 42 times. Meanwhile, every time they ran the ball against 2 deep safeties, which was constant, they were picking up 8 yards. Why did they throw the ball 42 times? Because Russ is in charge in Denver. He wanted control. He wanted to be in charge. And he wanted to throw the ball in order to prove that he can be that kind of a quarterback, not a guy who does what Russ is actually best at, which is to be efficient and run the ball a little bit. Oh, let's talk about that. Can Russ still run the ball? Because he ran once for 2 yards in that game.
Yeah. I mean, it is the nightmare of all nightmares. He gets out of Seattle so he can be the guy. And what's he get in his first game? A trip to Seattle, 2 fumbles inside the 5-yard line from his running backs, and a coach who yanks him off the field in favor of a 64-yard field goal attempt.
What a disaster.
It's unbelievable.
Now everyone's going to ask, right? I mean, who's really in charge there? Is it Russ? Is it Hackett? They're legitimately talking about should they fire Nathaniel Hackett after 1 game. What a mess.
Oh, man. All right. Mike Salk in Seattle. Hey, man, before you go, I want to give you this visual, and you tell me if this is plausible. Because when I saw the spread in this game, I went, hold on a second. Because we all walked out of Monday night's game and went, okay, 49ers looked totally wobbly. Seattle looked like a better team. As you said earlier today, Sean, Seattle is not the bye week everyone thought they were going to be. And so now everyone's going, this game is scary. And Vegas comes out and goes, how about 9.5? And then it gets bet up to like 10. If I told you that Monday morning we're talking about the Trey Lance party, he throws for 3 touchdowns, north of 250 yards, and the 49ers won by 17, are you buying that as possible?
I'm buying that the Niners could win this game handily, but I'd be pretty surprised if it's because Trey Lance throws the ball that well. I'm pretty committed to that point of view. But I do think the Seahawks were, look, week 1s are funky. Any football fan knows week 1 is not indicative of the rest of the year. I would think Vegas is capitalizing on people, overreacting to what they saw from both of those teams in week 1. I still think the Niners are a better team. Their roster, their defense, their line. I mean, just so many reasons to pick the Niners to win by at least a touchdown over the Seahawks. But I don't know whether I'm sitting here believing that we'll be talking about the Trey Lance coming out party on Monday morning.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Hey, Mike, thanks, man.
Great stuff, Mike.
Yeah, great to have you.
Anytime. Thanks. Good to talk to you guys. And thank you for letting me go after Mike Martz so that I can really look like an idiot. That's great. Put me right after an NFL coach. Thank you.
There he goes. No problem. Tough act to follow, but you handled it. It's kind of like what Trey Lance has to do, I guess, right? Coming after Jimmy Garoppolo. So, Mike Salk, thanks so much. I don't know. How'd that spread grab you, by the way? Like, the 49ers are disappointing. Seattle is surprising in a good way. And then Vegas comes out and goes, oh, by the way, the 49ers are going to blow the doors off Seattle in week 2.
I think that they go by Super Bowl caliber team, bad weather, played poorly, major criticism. Kyle Shanahan will get them ready. Seahawks, overly emotional on a big game, Monday night, play well. Did they leave it all on the field? One's underrated and the other's overrated. Meaning neither team matched to what they're going to do. I see it. I'm not sure I believe it. And let me make this point, Mark, about accuracy. I spent a lot of time with Mike Leach and a lot of coaches, and try to pick guys a lot smarter than my brain. And you heard Mike Martz talk about and the process the information, get through your reads, throw it accurately and on time, which you and I talked about before Mike came on.
Yeah.
And he echoed how he feels about that position and what he expects traits-wise, accuracy. I do know this. Now, there are the aberrations. For instance, there's guys that will come in and will say they're not accurate. Drew Brees can complete 70% with the blindfold on.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter his mechanics. It doesn't matter. Cam Newton, I'm just using him as an example, MVP guy, enormous talent. But he lived around 60, 61, 62, and the 60, if you're at 60%, it used to be what 55 is. You get my point?
Yep.
When Elway was playing, if you completed 58%, it was really good. They're pretty solid. Then the Steve Youngs came along, and now we've got up, if you're not living in the mid-60s, you're just a guy. It really has become that. So, and Cam, Cam wasn't going to be accurate then. He's not going to be accurate now. Other than, 60 to 63, there's that outlier season. And I hear this, and I am with him. Mike Leach said, you're either accurate or you're not. Now, I coach quarterbacks, and I can take a 58% guy and make him 61. I can take a 62 guy and get him to 64, 65 with changing his feet, get into mechanics, not breaking down under pressure. You ain't ever. Now, when I say ever, I probably never should, but the majority of the time in life at this position, Drew Lock's never going to be an accurate player. He's just never going to be. Justin Herbert's always going to be accurate. He's always going to be accurate. So, with that in mind, I do believe, and this is going to be a problem, that Trey Lance's special skill set is always going to outweigh his accuracy. He is not going to go 7, 8, 9 games in a row where it's 70, 71, 68. That's not him. But that's okay if you got other traits that you can overcome. Accurate passers are accurate passers. I do understand that question mark over his career and in the last year and this year. Not last week, but what you see, he can't miss easy throws, and Jimmy missed some of those too.
I buy the premise totally. My question is, though, can't accuracy evolve and change in a player? I'm looking at Josh Allen's stats right now.
He's the one outlier.
Right, rookie year, 52%. Year 2, 58%. Year 3, 69.
Yes.
Year 4, 63. And in game 1 this year, 84%. Right. So, I mean, and you're okay, if that's the answer, he's an outlier. I can accept that, but
yes.
There is that chance, right?
Yes, possible, yes. Now, the one thing about it, with Trey, we've heard people talk, and I have too, that the wind-up needs to quicken, right? The ball up and out a little quicker and not as much take away and drop it before you get up and out. And accuracy improves when you learn to trust people and throw to windows. And I'm not knocking Trey Lance saying he's not going to be a good player. And he may go and have 65%. But the talk on in Wyoming, and maybe, just maybe, Josh Allen playing in Wyoming had more accuracy in his skill set. He was well coached by Dable. But I'm just telling you, look over the history of time. Guys don't make quantum leaps with accuracy on a regular basis. You usually are within a framework who you are. Steve Young was never going to be inaccurate. He just never was. Elway was sometimes, but John was never going to lead the league in accuracy and completion percentage. But, yes, it can change. But that is, I'm telling you, Mark, it doesn't happen. You're either accurate or you're not with a few changes. And look at Josh Allen. We talked about it. Josh Allen's now the ultimate weapon in football. Yep. Period. Yep. And Herbert's charging, but Allen's the ultimate weapon. Those outliers don't happen very often at this quarterback position. It's tough.
Sean, real quick, with Herbert and Mahomes going here in a number of hours, Chiefs -4. What do you like tonight?
I think it's a field goal game. I think it's going to live up to the hype, like a 30-27. I'm taking the over in the game.
Yep.
I think the quarterbacks are just too good, even without Keenan Allen. And you'll see some of the plays that you saw Allen and Mahomes make last year in the playoffs. I don't know if you're going to see all those, but you're going to see a great quarterback duel. Chiefs at home by a smidge, but I got the Chargers in the AFC Championship game against the Bills.
Yeah, I can buy all of that. By the way, that over-under number is huge. It's 54. I love the Chargers. I'm only going Chiefs to cover because of that home opener dynamic. I know it is one of the hardest places to play in all of the NFL. Sean, man, what a treat. We got to do this again. That was a ton of fun, man.
Thanks to Dibs for letting me sit in, and thanks to you. What an honor. You're really good at this, and I appreciate you having me in and let me be a part of this for these 3 hours.
No, man, thank you. And it ended up only being about 2 hours and 15 minutes, so we got to do it again.
I was listening. Yeah. There you go. That's right.
All right, man, there it is. Sean Salisbury, Steiny and Goo coming up next on 95.7 The Game.
I'm Chelsea Messenger.